And this is my wife Jennifer.
Hi.
And welcome to the Copper Revolution. Today I want to go over a little bit about the our protocol guide. I see a lot of people haven't read it, and whatever else comes up, if you want to ask questions, we will take a break from reading the guide and we'll get right to the questions. Last time our audio feed wasn't working very well. We fixed that, and also we didn't take questions right away, but this time we will catch up on the questions as they go. So I have the protocol guide called up on my phone.
Go ahead and do that right there.
Notify people in Messenger.
Invite people in case anyone wants to come on.
Can't
Okay.
do it.
That's
It's a big menu.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so here we go. If you can follow along, if you want to follow along, pull this up on your computer. If you type in, if you go to revealingfraud.com and you type in the Copper Revolution Protocol 2023, that's the document that I will be reading. It looks like that. Okay. You can also get there by clicking on the guides section up at the top of our group, or the featured section at the top of our group, and it's linked up there. This is 5,400 words. The reading time is 20 minutes. We'll get through this as quickly as I can. This article also contains 48 links for further research, so there's tons of rabbit holes to go down and look at all sorts of confirming links to scientific evidence to back up what we're saying. Our full protocol, the full protocol is at the following link, which lists the minerals and vitamins we are taking, which is actually about 20 of them. So it's not just the copper protocol. My wife Jennifer and I, we take about 30 milligrams of copper daily in coffee every morning, plus about 70 milligrams of copper applied topically to our entire body on our skin. We have found that copper is the most effective supplement we have ever taken. And we've taken a ton. We used to have, oh my gosh, 4 whole shelves of supplements.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Bookcases.
Bookcases, yeah,
Yeah.
filled, top to
Hi,
bottom.
Satori.
So we've
Good to
taken
see
just
ya.
about everything.
Yeah, we have.
Welcome, Satori. Hey.
Hi, Susan.
Thank you. So copper sulfate costs us only about 11 cents a month when you make a bottle that looks like this. And our full protocol costs somewhere around $30 to $60 a month, and we don't sell any supplements. Now, we've been on high copper now, 30 milligrams, for 5.5 years, going back to 2018 in June, and now that it's December. So here is online historical proof. My first essay on copper was first published in 2018, titled High Copper, the Missing Nutrient on the High Iodine Program. And I have another article, Why We Need 30 Milligrams of Copper a Day, which is important to read to see why we're doing what we're doing. But basically the rundown is that the food supply is depleted, and as we have increased copper, our health has improved again and again and again every time we increase copper, until finally at around 50 milligrams, causing me some gastrointestinal upset, diarrhea. But last couple times I've taken it up that far, it's been a lot easier. So
Right.
once again, we are still going through some sort of detox.
Definitely.
We are still adjusting.
Yeah. Hi, Samira.
Yes.
Hi, Kaliba.
So the instructions below show how to ramp up and slowly adjust and scale up to the higher doses of what we take. We suggest starting at 5 milligrams of copper, 10 milligrams of zinc, we take zinc gluconate, and 1,000 milligrams of ascorbic acid form of vitamin C, not liposomal and whole food. And the reason why is that those other two forms just don't seem to work very well for a lot of people. We need to take all three in balance for building collagen and detoxing. And sometimes people get a headache if they take the wrong form or if they don't take vitamin C. So again, any ascorbic acid form works, like an ester C, or I think the liposomal doesn't work, maybe because it's a fat soluble one. And then the whole food is very often not high enough dose. You got to take about 1,000 milligrams.
Right.
If you
Hi,
take
Walt.
one of the
Glad you're here.
mineral ascorbates, like a calcium ascorbate or like a magnesium ascorbate, if that can be found, they work about half as well because it's already bound to a mineral, and we're taking a lot of minerals. So if you take one of those mineral ascorbates, you need to take about 2,000 milligrams instead of 1,000.
Right. Hi, Beverly.
Again, so why copper, zinc, and vitamin C to start? Why do we start with those three? All three detox. All three are needed to make collagen. And really, it's about a third of the overall body is collagen. Don't
Right.
underestimate that. It's really amazing. 35% of
Amazing.
our bones are collagen.
Right.
And that's, the calcium gets deposited into the collagen matrix. And if the collagen matrix is weak, you're not going to get
Right.
calcium put
Right.
into the bones. So copper makes the bones stronger, makes the bones heal. But
Makes the skin healthier.
30% of the
connective
muscles
tissues.
are collagen.
Right.
All
It's
of your
amazing.
tissues need collagen. Even your nerve cells. So the cell wall needs collagen for its structure.
Right.
Fascia tissue is
Right.
collagen. Our blood vessels are collagen. Heart muscle is collagen. Everything is collagen.
I never knew that collagen was such an important part of our bodies.
That's right.
And if we give our bodies the building blocks, then they can make the collagen that we need to keep us healthy and strong.
Very often we think of collagen as just improving wrinkles in the face, but it does so much more.
So much more.
Yeah. Also, zinc and copper are needed to make many detoxing enzymes that contain both zinc and copper. So each one, like zinc or copper, can deplete the other two, so it's important to take all three with each other, or at least on the same day. You don't have to take them at the exact same time. All three are also strong antihistamines, which help prevent problems as they heal you through detoxing. So often when we detox, people get a histamine reaction or an allergic reaction, and copper and zinc are some of the strongest antihistamines that we know of, which makes it best and easier to start with copper and zinc.
Right.
The other thing is copper and zinc. Most people are very depleted in copper. I think 99% of people are depleted in copper. The government admits that 80% of people are depleted in copper, but I'm getting off topic. You probably already know you want to. How do we do it? So the forms are, we recommend copper glycinate or copper sulfate. Each are fine. Copper glycinate is good because it's ready-made, ships fast, you get it within 1 to 3 days. It's bad because it's slightly more expensive, costing up to $50 a month if you take our high doses. And you can't really use it to apply topically because it comes in pill form. But it's great to start with. We used copper glycinate on our first 3 years on high copper, and here's a link where you can buy it on Amazon.
We did.
Copper sulfate, which is the kind we make, copper sulfate is very good because the cost gets all the way down to 3 to 4 cents per little bottle. And a little bottle, a 2-ounce bottle, has 1,180 milligrams of copper, rather than about $20 for the same amount of copper in the glycinate form. Mm-hmm. You have to buy it in bulk. Copper sulfate bulk crystals like that, they ship it in a 10-pound bag. It costs about $30. The bad news is it takes about 2 weeks to ship, and you have to actually mix it yourself. We have a video below in this very document for you to follow how to do that.
I think that they've improved it to where now it's
like
2 to 3 day shipping.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting. You've seen that?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the price has gone up. Like it
Maybe
used to be
40.
like 20, but now I think it's somewhere around 40.
There's inflation.
I know,
Inflation has come to the copper revolution.
Darn it.
That's right. So I recommend buying both forms. If the other one takes a while to ship, at least you'll have some copper glycinate to get it started with. Note, about 2% of people, or maybe less, have allergic reactions after taking sulfate or high sulfur foods such as eggs or spinach or garlic or copper sulfate. For them, it's best to start on copper glycinate for the first 2 months at least, because sulfur is a major mineral in the body. The average person's body has 1/3 of a pound of sulfur bound up in proteins. So nobody actually has an allergy to sulfur, but allergies get stirred up if, for example, you're low on sulfur and if you have a lot of toxins, so sulfur is going to mobilize. So it's a possibility that sulfur can trigger an allergy, but you're not allergic to the sulfur itself. It's important to make that distinction. You couldn't be, because how would you survive 1/3 of a pound of sulfur in your body?
Right.
It's a major mineral.
Right.
So,
right.
So sulfur allergies, in our view, often indicate mercury toxicity. I've seen this over and over and over again in the forum. So if sulfur is a problem for you, then add selenium, because selenium, along with copper and zinc, helps to detox mercury, and we have a link here on the scientific reasons on why. The scientific reason is essentially the body makes metallothioneins, which bind the mercury and help them be excreted. So after you detox mercury with copper, zinc, and selenium for about 2 months, then people can start taking sulfur a lot more easily. We've had quite a few people who were having allergic reactions when taking sulfur. Again, they're not allergic to the sulfur. They're just, sulfur can stir up mercury, but if the mercury is first out, then it doesn't create those allergy reactions.
Right.
So, and for further proof, the reason why we start with copper is I have another article that I've done. It's 7 copper enzymes that act as antihistamines. So again, when detoxing, people get allergic reactions. You're not allergic to copper. You're just simply stirring up the toxins, and you're allergic to those toxins. And copper helps get through those allergies because it makes 7 different antihistamines naturally. So you get to throw out a lot of your drugs because copper is so much better for you.
Right.
So this is why this is like weird and underground information that the establishment doesn't want you to know. So we have quite a few links here to copper sulfate sellers. We've got the most highly recommended copper salt pentahydrate seller, several other links for the UK and Australia. If you guys are in the UK and Australia, follow those links there. We have a link to Canada. You can also buy copper sulfate in person, like at Walmart or even Walmart online, or you can buy it on eBay. Consider also buying just the glass 2-ounce bottles. Buy like 24 of them because you might find yourself giving a few away. Also, I like to keep about 8 of these full so I don't have to make it every 5 days, but I can make it once a month and a bunch of them.
We do 8 bottles at a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Again, copper sulfate, if you're around the world, is sold in hardware stores, animal supply stores, fertilizer plant stores, swimming pool stores, plumbing stores, Walmart, or any hardware stores. I think I said hardware stores. It's a major agricultural commodity. That's why it's so cheap. And it's very pure because when they turn it into a crystal, they have purified it just in turning it into the crystal.
We have a question here.
Walt says, thanks for your research. Healthier person. Thank you, Walt. Beverly says, I learned so much. Reap many benefits. Thank you, thank you. Your volume is awesome. Thank you, thank you. And how do you apply it topically? So, Calaba, the way we apply it topically is I just put about 5 drops of this right into the palm of my hand. And then I just put my hands together, and then I apply to the shoulders and arms. And then I just wet myself. And then...
that sounded so bad. You wet yourself.
I just, I wet myself with the copper sulfate. I don't pee my pants. Okay, so there's the thing. So I just do that over and over.
And I use it as deodorant.
10 different parts of the body.
Right.
Apply it to the legs, the back, the chest. Yeah. Avoid the nipples. It's a sensitive area that can sting a little bit. In the beginning, we got a little bit of a burning sensation, stinging sensation when we applied it. That went away after a few months. Sometimes it was mild, but it's been so long now, I almost forgot that's what it was like when we started.
Also, like in the beginning, when I first started using the copper sulfate on my skin, it can feel like it's drying your skin out a little bit because it is a salt,
Yes.
But over time, my skin adapted to it and adjusted, so my skin is no longer dry. It's just normalizes. It's really interesting. So I use it as deodorant as well. Those first few weeks using it as deodorant, I was like, I don't know about this. But now it's great. It's so good. And I noticed that all of that area is getting healthier and healthier, because as women, especially if we've used conventional deodorants before, which I did, I was a child of the 90s and we didn't know all this stuff, and so I used regular deodorant for years until I knew better.
Aluminum based deodorant.
Yes. And so now I feel like it's detoxifying all of that area right here. So
I did look up to see whether copper would detox aluminum, and it's simply the research that I found shows that it can prevent the damage that aluminum would do, but it doesn't necessarily detox or cause extra excretion of aluminum. But there are other things that do, like silica is known to detox aluminum.
Well, one thing that I noticed too, whenever I started using, because I used like a creamy type deodorant, like the pit paste or the charcoal-based deodorants for years, and what I noticed once I started using the kind that you would put on with your fingers, you kind of do a lymphatic massage as you're applying the deodorant, to that area. So that also helps to move the lymph and get all the things flowing out of that area. So anyway, it's good on multiple fronts.
So now sometimes people can't find 99% pure copper sulfate.
Oh, hold on. There's another question real quick. Susan asked, does it hurt to detox the armpits or create a rash? Sometimes it does. So
sometimes people sometimes get rashes. Sometimes it's a little burning on the skin, and because the pits are a little sensitive, it can. So maybe we would often apply it as we get out of the shower when our pores are open, but maybe wait until you sort of dry it off for a little while and then apply it, and it's not going to be quite so burning sensation.
Yeah, so I noticed too in the beginning I would get bumps or almost like boils, under the armpits where the skin is trying to push stuff out, and I would just go with it. I mean, I'm just kind of an extreme biohacker in that sense. I'm like, okay, it's doing good things. I'm just going to keep letting it do all the good things, and it's fine, So it would be a little bit uncomfortable and hurt a little bit, but I would just go with it. I wasn't stinking. I knew my body was getting rid of the things that it needed to get rid of, and then it goes away within a few weeks or so.
It's important to know the research and what the research says, and that copper stops bleeding, and you can apply copper to ulcers. It's a historic cure for ulcers, and historically they would also put copper sulfate, dry copper sulfate at maximum concentration. They'd pour it directly into open wounds like battle wounds or axe wounds or sword wounds. And I'm sure it stung like crazy, but it's going to kill germs. stop the bleeding, promote speed wound healing, build collagen. So if you apply it and you're getting a little rash, well, what's going on? Isn't a little rash sort of like an ulcer? How is it that copper is causing ulcers? It's very counterintuitive. And I think the reason is that when we take copper, we are very often initiating a detox of those substances that cause the rashes. So we know now from the research that I've got such a greater command of all these facts now than I did even 6 months ago because my brain is on point. But the way it works is copper lowers vitamin A in the liver. The two move inversely. So if you're taking in copper, all of a sudden you're going to get symptoms of excess vitamin A in the body as the body begins to detox vitamin A. So we got these little bitty rashes while we were starting increasing our copper and taking more topical copper, little red spots here and there, and we're like, what is that? And we're like, maybe what we should do is stop all sources of vitamin A for 3 days. Literally after 3 days of no tomato sauce, no sweet potatoes. What else did we cut out in the beginning? It was just, no tomatoes, no ketchup.
Yeah.
Because ketchup has
we also did sources. No Cholula, no hot
sauce. 3 days of eating a little bit more bland foods that way. And all those little red marks and then there wasn't a lot of them, like 5 on me, 3 or 5 on you. They all went away after 3 days. So we're like, wow. So that very well could be the rashes, or could be from vitamin A detox. And it makes more sense that it is
now. Well, and
now.
Something that's really interesting is, and we've had people talk about this in the group too, I got like this little mole on my arm right here. And it was just like this little raised little mole here. Well, I've been noticing it and thinking, that's kind of weird. That's like new. What's going on? I put it on all the time there. Well, one day it started feeling itchy. So my philosophy is, if it itches, I'm going to scratch it, because that's, our body's natural way.
My philosophy is itchy, itchy, don't scratch.
Mine is itchy, itchy, yes, scratch. So I scratched it real good. Well, it started bleeding. And it bled really good for a little while.
Yeah.
And then once it stopped bleeding, the whole thing was gone.
The whole thing was gone and
it
cured.
Was amazing.
And it even healed without a scar.
Yeah.
So I was always concerned that if you scratch too much, it's going to leave a scar. But because we're healing so much faster and better,
it was so
we're
weird.
Not getting scars from little things like that.
I still have weird stuff happening all the time. Like I'm just
less so as time goes on.
Less so, but still,
little things
weird
happen.
Stuff, but and I hate this. So I wish I could be in the group so much more, but I am at work a lot.
That's right.
So I don't really get to share all these things or post a whole lot in the group. But anyway, I just got through working a 10-day in a row stint at work.
That's right.
And I'm so thankful that I have copper and all the minerals, just so that I can keep going and have the stamina to do it. So anyway, it's all good things.
We are also high on colloidal gold right now, just so that you are aware.
We're super chatty.
It helps us makes us a little bit more verbal, and it's a biohacker nutrient for the brain. So
yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay, shall we get back to the
Okay, well, here's another comment. This is very interesting, because Dr. John Campbell found research that vitamin A will be good for the mycoplasma pneumonia
that is starting in certain countries.
That's interesting.
So my research shows that vitamin A is a toxin, but yet the body can make use of the toxin, yes, to kill germs. But the body also makes use of copper to kill germs, and copper is also very good for pneumonia. So it makes sense that they would move inversely in the liver if the body can use both to kill germs. And I think it's also that way with vitamin D. Not necessarily that it kills germs, but it seems to suppress symptoms of infection. So you can feel better on vitamin D, but we do think vitamin D and vitamin A are toxins, just as copper is toxic to the germs, not toxic to us, but copper is the preferred form, preferred germ killer form that the body would prefer to use. So just because a toxin has usefulness in killing germs doesn't necessarily mean that we need vitamin A. We don't seem to suffer from any vitamin A symptoms that we know of, and we've been avoiding it now for, 2 years? Almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And there are other people who've been avoiding vitamin A for up to 10 years, and they're not really suffering from any vitamin A detox, or not suffering from vitamin A deficiency symptoms either.
Right. Well, I also want to say that even though we're actively kind of avoiding vitamin A, we do make some exceptions. We went out the other night.
We eat butter.
Italian
we drink
food.
milk, and we don't appear that vitamin A in those forms are bad.
We went out for Italian food, so we had tomato sauce.
That's right.
Pasta,
we're not so overloaded with vitamin A. We feel that we can sort of play around with it a little bit better. And
we're just lower.
Lower in vitamin A. It's not causing any problems.
I still occasionally have ketchup.
That's right. I had some ketchup the other day too, but I didn't have as much as I used to have. I used to have like 5 cups of ketchup, and now I'm like, maybe 2 or 3.
Right. So now we're lower vitamin A.
Yes.
We're not super strict. Yeah, we're not super strict.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see.
Loa writes. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. I just reached a 50 milligram dosage of copper in 2 months. Started from nothing. That's fast. I'm also doing the zinc to copper in a 2-to-1 ratio. That seems to be good. I mixed copper sulfate in iodine. Then I put that solution in raw milk. Great way to do it. That's right. No issues at all. We'll hold this for a month. Feeling 100. See more. 100% amazing. I am wanting to reach 160 milligrams of copper eventually.
Me too.
We tried. You got up to about 80.
I got up to 80.
Nausea hit. And maybe next time it'll be easier.
It's just hard for me to get it in while I'm at work and whatnot.
Some of your work locations make it harder to do all your supplements. I understand. I am looking into what else I can take to make copper easier to process at very high levels. So far, it's doing great at my current dosage.
Awesome.
Yeah, just continue into the full protocol. There's 20 different things we're taking. A lot of them help copper to work better.
I feel really good at 80 milligrams of copper. I like to get there.
Your brain was on point. You began to be like Superwoman. It was kind of nice.
It was awesome.
Yeah. Okay, Susan says this is great. Now we're at the point where I have the video. The video is like a 2-minute little instruction on how to make the copper sulfate. And it's basically 5/8 of a teaspoon. You can measure it with a gram scale if you're a foreigner and you don't have access to American teaspoons. It's just most of us are Americans, and that's what we use. But it's 4.7 grams of copper in a 2-ounce bottle, and that makes a solution that's 1 milligram per drop. So it's easy to measure. You can make it twice as strong and count 2 milligrams per drop if you want to, but
I want to say, my dad takes copper.
Oh yeah, his tip.
He says, put it in the capsule. That is the way to do it.
Well, we showed him putting it into the capsule.
We did.
He was getting nausea, and with putting it into the capsule, he didn't have to. It bypasses the taste. It bypasses nausea. Made it a lot easier to take.
Right. Yeah. He was like, "This is the way to go."
Yeah, you got to tell everybody to put it in capsules.
So, yes. Yeah. Because I'd been telling him, just put it in milk and like a little shot glass, take it that way, and then drink some more milk afterwards. But he really, really likes the capsule, the 0 capsules. It's so easy, and that's what I do when I'm at
You have to make the capsule on an ongoing basis. You can't store a liquid in a capsule. You can only make one at a time as you do it. So
I just carry the little baggies with the empty capsules in it.
Oh, okay. So the video is that's just how to do it. Okay. You don't have to use distilled. It doesn't have to be hot. If you use cold distilled water, it will still dissolve. It just takes longer time.
Over Thanksgiving.
Yeah, how long did it take for it to fully dissolve? About an hour?
No, maybe 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes.
Yeah, not long at all.
Right, okay. So this 2-ounce bottle contains 1,182 milligrams of contained copper. If someone accidentally drinks an entire bottle, which has happened now 3 times, they will likely projectile vomit and have diarrhea for 3 to 4 hours.
Then feel amazing.
They will be okay. The best antidote is to then take about 100 milligrams of zinc, 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and all 3 of the people who did that reported that they felt better than they had ever felt in their entire lives by the next day. The medical establishment used to give kids 100 milligrams of copper or even 500 milligrams of copper to use as an emetic, which means
to induce
vomiting, which is exactly what happens. And if our bodies are really full of a lot of toxins, who knows? Maybe that's a good way to, get past the fear. Just get through your first vomiting, and then you'll be fine. So a full dropper, this is the dropper, right? When you fill up the dropper, that's about 20 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's someone stuck at the top, but 13, 14, 15. Yeah. But I didn't fill it all the way. I only filled it that way. So if you fill it all the way, you get about 20 drops out of there. Again, it's 1 milligram per drop. Sometimes people read very quickly and they think it's 1 milligram per dropper. No, it's per drop. It's concentrated stuff. So we recommend 2 drops 3 times a day is a good way to get started. Take the zinc and vitamin C same day. Pro tip. Pour 2 cups of boiled distilled water into a glass cup that contains 5 teaspoons of copper sulfate. Stir, then pour into and make 8 of those 2-ounce bottles all at once. Small funnel might be helpful.
Here. Yeah, 2 cups, 16 ounces.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Now, copper sulfate may stain clothing. We add vinegar to the wash to remove it. Also, sometimes people's color gets removed, like it's like a bleaching action, and that could be because of the toxins that come out too. I just added a note to the end of this about that.
Okay, so Samira has a question.
Yes.
Sorry, a question. I'm on holiday at the moment and forgot my zinc supplement at home. Can I continue the protocol?
You got a great answer for this, I know.
Yes.
Right at the tip of your tongue.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Yes.
What did you do recently?
Yeah, I traveled a lot for work recently, and I did not take my zinc every night. I mean,
almost 5 days,
almost
10 days?
Yeah, 5 days.
5
I did
days,
not
you missed
take.
it.
I just forgot. I mean,
You're
I had
fine.
it with me.
You're fine. You didn't die.
routine.
This isn't
Right.
hard and fast
Right
rules.
here.
These are loosey-goosey rules because
and
these are
I
minerals.
was-
They're not medications.
Right, and I was still doing like 20 to 40 milligrams of copper every day, and I didn't take my zinc for like 5 days. But then once I got home, I started taking it again. One night I took 100 milligrams. So, it's very forgiving.
Right.
I mean,
the
it's
protocol
not-
is very forgiving. It's easy.
It is.
Mistakes are hard to make because you're not going
Right.
to, I mean, did you even have insomnia when you skipped the zinc? Yeah.
No.
Low zinc can cause insomnia, but it also takes like 3 months to induce a deficiency. So, as long as you're not deficient when you stop taking the zinc, if you're
Right.
deficient when you stop, the deficiency symptoms will kick in a little
Faster.
sooner.
Well, and two, like, if you're on holiday and you miss, that's okay. It's just
Right.
don't miss 2 or 3 or 4 weeks in a row.
Right, then you're just
and
flat out
continue to take copper.
Not on the protocol.
Right.
or
Then you want
being
to
lazy.
get back to it.
What I like to say and think about for my own self is knowledge does not solve the problem. Actions solve the problem. You have to actually put the
Do
knowledge
it.
into use. And sometimes
Right.
there's this wide gulf between knowing what you should do and what you're actually doing.
it.
Life is just that way.
Right.
So, try to be diligent as you can. I see sometimes people write about how they're having trouble with the protocol, trouble remembering to do the protocol. Well, that's why it's not working as well as it should. The more
Consistent.
diligent and consistent and strict you are, generally speaking, the better things go. I mean, the protocol is so self-rewarding, and
Right.
you notice when you're on it. You're like,
Right.
yeah, I want more of that good brain feeling. Let's keep
Right.
doing this. The protocol, it teaches you to keep going with it because it's so useful.
Okay, so Samira says she's going to be away from home for 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks.
So,
Yeah, that's still
yeah,
fine.
It's okay. Maybe just lower the copper to like 10 milligrams a day.
That's a wise thing. So you don't get
that
too
you
out of
don't
balance.
so that
Yeah.
you're not taking a lot of copper without the zinc. So
Right,
that's
right.
what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
And Thompson writes,
says, "Hey guys, any recommendations for eye drops? I was diluting it as it says on your page, but it was still a bit burning."
yeah, we never got past that issue ourselves. I did feel it burning the eyes. I think somebody said that it was probably a vitamin A detox still happening. And I find it hard to push into pain sometimes. I
Yeah,
kind
we
of like to
don't-
try to avoid the
Yeah,
pain
we
game.
don't do the eye drops very much.
Right. We were enthused
So-
in the beginning, but then
You
it was
know
just
what you might do with the eye drops if they're still a bit burning, just dilute them even
yeah,
further.
dilute them half again
So
as much.
what was
That's
it?
fine.
Was it 6 drops?
It was like 9 drops
Nine?
in the entire bottle.
Yeah.
And then the
So
rest
just-
filled with
Yeah.
distilled water.
Right. So just cut that in half.
Right. Do
And
4
just
drops.
dilute it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then go with it and see how
Melanie
it
is
goes.
still in the hospital.
Okay, so
Melanie.
Melanie, it's good to see you.
The
Okay.
hospital took most of my supplements and are holding them in the pharmacy. At this point, I'll probably have to start low again.
Okay.
Yeah, at
So-
least you know what to do, Melanie. I
Right.
mean, I know you're being held hostage in the hospital right now. She was in a car accident. She
Right.
has like 5 broken bones, 2 in one arm, like it's like a wrist and a foot and the ankle, and it's just
Right.
awful.
Yeah, so everybody keep Melanie in your thoughts.
Yeah,
and
Melanie's one
prayers,
of our
and
mods, so
she's a rock star. She
she's
does a great job.
so helpful in the group, and
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that this happened to her. Her
Well,
mom is also in the hospital,
yes.
probably the same hospital with her from
And
this
is
car
also-
accident, and she's in a worse condition,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So Melanie, we're thinking about you, and just hang on, and whenever you get out of the hospital, then you can get back to it, and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, and start low again. Yeah,
the-
that would
look
be
at the
smart.
positive too. It's like, she went into the hospital having fixed all of those nutritional deficiencies that everybody's walking around with. She
Right.
should be recovering
in a good place
in
to
a way
begin
where
with.
the hospital will be like, oh my gosh,
Right.
she's doing so good, and I
Okay.
hope to hear how she recovers fast.
Right. Right.
That reminds me, I fell on the ice and slipped and hit my back 2 years ago, or no, 3 years ago
3
now.
years ago
and
now. Wow, time
I thought
flies.
for sure I was going to have horrible bruising or maybe have to go to a chiropractor. And within like 2 days, I was in the gym again and I was fine. I didn't bruise at all.
Right.
Bruising has been a lifelong problem for me because I have a type 2 bleeding disorder, and I didn't have any bleeding at all because of the copper protocol. It was amazing. So,
Okay.
should we get back to our list?
So Samira says, thanks, guys. Yeah, we're happy to help.
Yeah.
Melanie said she actually broke 3 of her limbs. So.
I've heard about castor oil on the eyelids, but I've never tried that. Helps a lot with dry eyes, worn contacts for 30 years.
Yeah, so Nikki says to put castor oil. You know, a lot of people are also putting castor oil on their eyelashes to help their eyelashes grow and their eyebrows to help their eyebrows. Huh. Yes. I've done that a few times, but it kind of hurts my eyes, so I just haven't.
Maybe I don't need bigger eyebrows. I'm suffering from old man crazy eyebrow syndrome.
Yeah, you got the crazy eyebrows.
No castor oil for me.
It's so fun. He's like, do I have any crazy eyebrows? You want to pluck them today?
That's right.
It's so fun.
Beverly writes, is 50 milligrams of gluconate daily okay with 70 milligrams of topical copper and 40 milligrams internal? I don't know whether
copper gluconate.
Is she saying copper gluconate?
Probably.
Or, yeah, that's fine. And 40 milligrams internal. What's she do? Is she taking just gluconate by itself?
I'm
not exactly sure what she's asking. Beverly, if you can clarify for us, that would be good.
Yeah.
That sounds fine. I mean, gluconate is simply a
type.
Is it an amino acid or a sugar? I forget which one.
I think it's a sugar.
The gluconate is the sugar.
Maybe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
look
50 milligrams for sugar is like nothing.
We
ate candy this morning. It wasn't.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so speaking of candy. Okay, so we've given up a lot of things. We don't do artificial food coloring. We don't like the bad oils. They're very bad. Okay, so we were traveling on Thanksgiving to go see my parents.
Oh, she's taking zinc gluconate.
Zinc gluconate. Okay, yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
That totally works.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, she's doing like a 1-to-1 ratio.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. You could increase the zinc a little bit, but I found that 50 milligrams of zinc is just fine, especially when I'm taking more potassium. Sometimes I needed 75, but that was only when I was having allergies. But the potassium has fixed the dehydration problem, and so now I don't need the extra zinc. So, yeah.
So we were traveling on Thanksgiving.
Yes. Back to the candy.
We stopped at a gas station to use the restroom. We were like, oh, we feel so bad not buying anything because these people are here working on our holidays, so we've got to buy something. So we bought some candy. Okay, so I bought the Sweetheart Ropes, which are like one of my favorites.
And what did we say? We said, don't look at the ingredients.
Let's just don't even look at it. Let's
just enjoy ourselves, and who cares if we're off protocol or doing bad things. Let's just
Yeah. So a couple of days later, Jason was like, okay, so I have some good news and I have some bad news. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And he said, well, the good news is this does not have any, this candy that we bought has no artificial colors, and it uses coconut oil instead of a bad oil in the making of this candy.
That was good news and bad news because...
I was like, oh my gosh, so then what's the bad news?
The bad news is that because it's got these good ingredients is that we might end up buying some more. So like, you go ahead and buy some at Amazon. But,
so it's not something that we do every day, but we're humans and we're people and we're just not, I guess we're not super militant. Right. We avoid mostly vitamin A, but we still have pasta on occasion.
Kind of the whole point of the supplemental program is to eat like an abnormal American.
Live.
And here's the other thing. The one of the ingredients, of course, in these tart candies is citric acid, which is actually kind of good for you because it actually helps to dissolve minerals and keep minerals in solution. We use citric acid as a cleaner in our distiller, and what does it do? It dissolves all those minerals that are at the bottom and puts them in solution, and we want that on our body too. Because what happens if we have calcium precipitating out and creating, joint problems? Some authors have written that citric acid and citrate, these things can act as metal chelators, which actually help to remove toxins.
Wow, yeah.
So there's often good and bad.
Well, and there is also, and sugar is often demonized.
It is.
A lot. Well, there was that one guy who, I can't say that, I don't know if we can say both C words together, but he cured cancer using baking soda and sugar.
And maple sugar.
And
he would cook them
sugar.
together, and he would use the maple syrup as a carrier to get the baking soda to where the cancer is, because we know cancer takes up sugar. So if you mix them together, then the cancer would take in the sugar along with the baking soda, and the baking soda becomes like the Trojan horse.
Right, it's fascinating.
And a lot of people say that cancers are really fungal based in the body, and so
it's kind of like the sugar
because they're white.
The sugar
all
tells
cancers
the
are white,
minerals,
like fungals are white.
The sugar tells the minerals where to go.
Where to go? That's right.
So it's
the brain
really
also
fascinating.
uptakes sugar. So every now and then we're like, okay, if we're going to have a sugar treat, let's take it with our B vitamins. Let's take it with a couple other minerals. It will go to where, like, if they say, oh, sugar's bad for you because it lights up the brain like cocaine. You've probably heard that argument, right? Well, what if we light up the brain and carry other good minerals right in there with it? Hello, that could be very great, because all these minerals, they are not toxic to the brain. They help the brain heal. So,
yeah, it's interesting.
We have to catch up some questions. Harry's given us a compliment. You two look great. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on anemia and copper taken with iron supplements? Kaiba Mountain writes. So you haven't taken any iron now in 3 years or four almost now?
4 years.
Not a single bit of iron. You used to suffer from anemia.
Right.
There's no anemia at all.
Zero anemia.
Zero anemia. How is that possible? Copper actually helps us take in more iron. Vitamin C helps us take in more iron. And the food supply is loaded with iron. The iron absorption problem does not mean that you need to resort to injections. It just means you're probably low in vitamin C and copper like everybody. Copper not only helps us absorb it from the food, but it also helps it being used in the body. And it also, copper solves the problem of low iron, solves the problem of high iron at the same time, because it makes iron more bioavailable. So, in fact, copper is really the cure for anemia and not iron, because it's known that with copper, red blood cell counts go above normal.
Right.
Now, you think about that for a minute. If it's above normal, that means normal people actually are all suffering from a low level of anemia, because you can reach a new normal or a new high on copper. And look, the body does not accumulate copper to excess. Copper only builds up in tissues when there's poisons in the body and when you're not getting enough copper to clean it all out. So all of this copper building up to excess that copper toxicity advocates talk about, all that is symptoms of copper deficiency. Even a copper high in the blood is a symptom of copper deficiency, because there's 19 different forms of trauma to the body or insults to the body which will end up raising copper in the blood. And again, copper raising the blood cannot be toxic, because pregnant women have a 100% increase of copper in the blood. And if that's the case, pregnant women are not copper toxic. Here's another feature of pregnant women. They almost never get cancer. Almost never. They get like 20%, or not 20 times lower levels of cancer than normal people. They're also high in estrogen, which proves that estrogen does not cause cancer. It's the raising of copper in the blood which is preventing cancer from happening, as well as babies have 10 times more copper in their bodies than adults do.
Wow.
So copper also prevents birth defects. So it's super safe and super important for the baby.
All right. Scroll back up and see if we missed any other comments.
Oh, it's not after. Okay.
Just up 2 more. There you
Zinc
go.
gluconate.
Oh, okay,
what are your
perfect.
thoughts?
Okay, yeah,
we
yeah,
haven't
we
missed
got
it.
that. Okay.
Do you know which Colloidal Gold brands are good? We just ordered a new brand. We were buying Mesogold. And what did we just buy? The other
Medigold,
one.
I think.
Medigold. Just sold on Amazon. It was like maybe 2/3 the price or something like that. A little cheaper.
Someone mentioned it in our group.
I'm glad you paid attention. I missed it.
Yeah, and so we decided to try that. I know, we love our group. It's
group's
awesome.
Amazing. So when you try this, help improve the mind even more. So one of the things that Colloidal Gold does, it also increases those metallothioneins, which also detox lead, and lead's a neurotoxin. Detoxes mercury, which is a neurotoxin, and detoxes arsenic and cadmium, which are also neurotoxic. So when you get 4 neurotoxins out of the body, it's going to improve the brain significantly. Blueberries also help to do that. They boost metallothioneins, interestingly enough.
Right.
The berries are also very interesting because they help sulfur work better in the body. They're a co-nutrient for sulfur, just like molybdenum is a co-nutrient for sulfur. Sulfur is a great detoxifier. So if we make those other things work better, then it's like there's just so much synergy get on the full protocol and everything works better. Harry, so what's the real scoop on Nascent iodine for heavy metal detox? We don't think Nascent is necessarily better. It seems to be like it doesn't have the potassium iodide part of it, and they say it's the pure elemental form. I don't know how they would separate the two, but the point is, we have found that Nascent is about 10 times more expensive and not necessarily needed. Lugol's works just fine. Some people find that the Nascent is maybe smoother or whatever.
But potassium iodide is also
potassium
really
iodide
smooth.
is actually the smoother part of it. So
and you can take it and it converts in the body
and has less
from potassium iodide to iodine and back and forth.
That's right.
So,
we went back to taking Lugol's partly because
right.
we were thinking maybe it just wasn't working as well. You had developed a little bit of extra anxiety and things. We added it back in, added Lugol's back in, and it seemed to fix that. Seemed to bring us back on point again. And
so now we're doing potassium
actually,
iodide
I think
and some iodine.
I don't think I wrote as much also when I
Right.
took myself off of Lugol's and
Yeah.
tried to live on
Lugol's
potassium
is just
iodide
amazing.
entirely. I think it's a good way to view it is if you want to get started with iodine, starting with potassium iodide might be a little gentler and it has fewer side effects, but eventually move on towards Lugol's. Because a lot of people, they get allergic reactions on Lugol's. So why start
Right.
with the one that gives you allergic reactions? Do the one that has less side effects, then move on to Lugol's.
Right.
It seems to be an easier transition. I haven't even
Right.
written about that yet, but that seems to be what would be more ideal.
Right.
Harry says I'm not able to share this. Harry, what we're going to do with this video afterwards, we're going to put it up on YouTube and it will be shareable. Yes, we'll provide a link. You can share it at your group, Fit 50 and beyond. Oh, great. Okay, he got it. Thank you. All right. And Vikas writes, I am getting methylcobalamin powder really cheap compared to the pills. Can I make drops with it? I just don't have any experience with that. I'm sure you probably can.
Yeah, just do the math for it and figure out what it works out to. And
Right.
yeah, I'm sure you probably could.
There's no upper limit for all of the B vitamins we're taking. The two that we've eliminated are the ones with very low upper limits, which indicate that they're toxic. And there's just a ton of research showing that they're toxic. It's really amazing. If you look at the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, they've really sort of exposed that B6 and B9 are not nearly as safe as they used to think that they were. This is kind of new research to come out in the last 5 years. So it's important to pay attention to that as they change. There are, again, a whopping 17 former B vitamins that are no longer classified as B vitamins for one reason or another, and I think they probably just missed these last two. In the next 5 or 10 years, we might see B6 and B9 taken off the B vitamin list. We'll see.
Right. Okay, so Kaibes says, how many drops of Lugol's to start with daily? Start with one.
Yeah, start with one. Take about 2 to 3 weeks to work up to, like most people, if it's Lugol's 2%, they work up to 20 drops, which is 50 milligrams, and it'd take about 2 to 3 weeks to get there.
So what
it can
I
take
did,
longer. You took you 6 months to get there.
So I had already been on the full iodine protocol for years, but I had like horrific acne all over my face. I've shared them in our group, my pictures in the group before, but it was awful.
No acne on your face now?
No.
Zero.
And so I read this book called, it was called The End of Acne, but now it's been renamed as The Hidden Cause of Acne. And she recommends starting over at the very, very lowest and go very, very slow, like painfully slow, especially for us biohackers, Anyway, so I started over and I took about 6 months to work my way up to that 50 milligram mark. But I did the 2% Lugol's. But if you don't have like acne or something like that you're trying to heal, you can move up faster.
Look,
you can move up over a month or so.
It's important to understand also that some people get acne when they're starting our program. So we're saying that it cures it, but how is it some people get it? It seems counterintuitive. But once again, toxins take time to get out of the body. And if toxins are coming out through the skin, that's why you're getting acne. So what we want to do is encourage those toxins to come out through the feces and through the urine. So make sure you have no constipation, and then the skin will be a lot more clear. Again, it's not that that acne is caused by our minerals, but our minerals can stir up acne in some people in the beginning. So when I realized, and you had taught me, I had just, when we were getting together, I had just gone through about a month of using high dose potassium iodide for the first time, And what I had noticed is that I had developed some back acne in my 40s. And I couldn't believe why it was happening, because I'd never had that before. But I was doing some bodybuilding and I was eating a lot of chicken. And of course, chicken, I discovered, was also a high fluoride food. And I was also eating a lot of grapes and a lot of dried fruit. Also foods that are high in fluoride, because they use fluoride as an antifungal in the dried fruits. And they spray it on grapes so that the grapes don't get fungals on them. And it's never listed and it's never listed as in the ingredients, so you don't know. And they put it in chicken feed, fluoride. So I had all these fluoride exposures, which was creating the back acne. And when I first started taking the potassium iodide, my back acne got even worse for a short time. But after about a month, I think my back acne was down to 10% of what it was. Then I began applying. Then we started adding the copper, and all of a sudden the back acne was like 5% of what it used to be. And nowadays, 5 years later, nothing.
Zero.
I maybe will get one zit on occasion if we decide to cheat and have 2 or 3 chicken meals in a week. Then I had one last week. I had a little bit of a zit right here.
I called Jason. I was like, I have a confession to make. I was traveling for work. And he was like, I also have a confession to make. We had both eaten chicken, which we hadn't in years and years. And we were like, okay, let's just see what happens.
Right.
So
we play with fire. We get a zit. We relearn.
We do. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Thank you for the excellent information. Thank you, Lola. Thanks for being here.
And Mark says, are you guys making molybdenum? I noticed that the sales of the supplement are decreasing.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
No, well, you can buy the powder.
We bought the powder.
Make the drops.
We haven't started making the drops yet.
Yeah.
So
someone in our group had shared.
Well, we still have the pills.
How to do that?
We still have 2 whole bottles of molybdenum pills. So
in the pill form.
Yeah.
So.
But we have backup in case they stop selling it.
That's right.
So
we bought the powder form.
There's no dire need to figure out the math on that yet and make it into drops. So 50 drops of Lugol's 2%. No, 20 drops of Lugol's 2% gets you to 50 milligrams. Sorry.
Yeah, because each drop is about 2.5 milligrams.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Hey, Layla. Good morning.
Hi, Layla.
Or good afternoon, almost. We should get back to our...
hang on. So, Bella says, hi, guys. Hi, Bella. I just started iodine, 12% Lugol's. All right, which is 15 milligrams per drop. What problems might I run into if I don't titrate up slowly? You could probably start with 1 drop and then just titrate up slowly with that. Whenever I very, very first started
taking... Add like a drop a week, I guess.
Yeah, whenever I very first started taking iodine, I was doing the Iodoral tablets, and they were 12.5 milligrams each. And so, I just started with 1 and then added another one, or I would break them in half. But yeah, you can go up slowly with that one too.
Harry laughs.
Yeah.
Mark says, cool, I was thinking backup as well.
Yes.
That's right, we're using that as backup. We haven't done it yet. Callan says, hi, you two aging and reverse lovelies. It's like they're come from the past.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Layla says, good afternoon. Happy to see you, beautiful, healthy people.
All right,
thank you.
Good to see you too. Hi.
Vikas just writes again, thank you. Since high-dose iodine increases production of hydrogen peroxide, yes, and selenium takes care of that by boosting glutathione. That's right, it does. Does that mean that anything that boosts glutathione will take care of hydrogen peroxide as well, like milk thistle? Yes, sort of, right? Gly, right? Here's the thing. People do write as if hydrogen peroxide is this big danger, right? We hear this stuff called oxidative damage. But if you go to cancertutor.com, they talk about the hydrogen peroxide therapy. And, here's the thing.
It's also a type of oxygen therapy, like ozone.
So if you look up the testimonials for hydrogen peroxide or hydrogen peroxide therapies, you will see I've read literally thousands of them and almost nothing negative. The only negative thing that happens is that people are crazy enough to drink a large bottle of 30% hydrogen peroxide food grade. They're going to literally burn their esophagus a little bit, but it almost always heals totally fine. It was burny for a little while. Don't recommend doing that.
No.
The protocol is literally a drop or two, and you scale up slowly, a drop a day, all the way up to maybe 10 to 20 drops over about 2 weeks, and then you just scale it back down. If you slowly scale up by a drop or two, it increases oxygenation in the body. Now, I'm a biblical creationist, according to the flood story and some biblical creationists, there was a flood canopy of water over the earth. So we might have had 2 or 3 higher atmospheric pressures, and we all might have had, multiple times more oxygenation in the body, kind of like what deep sea divers.
Like we were in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
Like everybody was living in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And they've done studies where animals that are grown in hyperbaric oxygen chambers under pressure grow bigger, whether it's plants or animals. They grow bigger, especially reptiles that don't often have upper limits to their growth.
Right.
They can grow some really big things in these hyperbaric chambers. Another thing that, so look, 21% of the atmosphere is oxygen. So, if you wanted, and 69 or 63% of our bodies are oxygen, because a lot of that oxygen is in the form of water, and water is a big part of our bodies. So there are forces out there in the world that lie. It's important to remember people lie. And so there are forces out there in the world that try to blame everything on oxidative damage and that oxygen is somehow a toxin. That's crazy to me, because if oxygen is a toxin, how are we alive with 60% of our bodies being oxygen?
Right.
So hydrogen. So what these people do is that they say, well, mercury is a problem because it creates extra oxygenation in the body. Well, this extra oxygenation happens through depleting selenium. Selenium is the one thing that actually will detox mercury. So selenium is known as this powerful antioxidant which fixes the problem. But the problem is not oxygen. The problem is mercury. Mercury damages the body in so many ways. And why would you blame an entirely different element than the right element? The right element, or the wrong element, the one to blame is mercury. Why would you blame oxygen for the damage that mercury is doing?
Right.
But this blame shifting is really a deception. Okay, because oxygen therapies are great, and they don't want you to know about oxygen therapies,
right,
because they don't want you to heal. This again,
right,
it's underground information.
So one time I listened to an interview with a doctor, and he was talking about how it's very, very counterproductive to take an antioxidant, like, high-level antioxidants, before you exercise.
Yeah.
Because he said that one of the main
There's
benefits...
problems with too many antioxidants.
Right. One
Absolutely.
of the main benefits of exercise is that it increases oxygen in your body, and it increases that oxidative, state. And
stimulation.
Stimulation.
The body actually makes more antioxidants naturally in response to the increased oxygen that we get.
And
so our bodies end up getting healthier.
Right. So when we exercise, it's
There's
like
a synergy
our body
happening.
has more oxygen molecules, so it's similar to having ozone or an ozone treatment.
Right.
And so anyway, he just said it was very counterproductive to take like a high amount of vitamin antioxidants before you exercise, because you're just negating the whole benefit of the exercise.
If you take a bunch of antioxidants, maybe the body won't be stimulated to make its own antioxidants, which are often better than the ones that you're taking, which flush out of the body so quickly.
Right.
Our own natural antioxidants are often a lot better.
Right. Yeah.
Kai Bell writes, what dose of selenium?
Yeah.
The normal dose of selenium is anywhere between 200 to 400 micrograms. It's a very small amount.
But we take 200 micrograms.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like what Melanie said.
Melanie
Thanks,
answered
Melanie.
the question. That's right. Okay, let's get. Should we get back to our? This is our quick start guide.
Okay, scroll back up here so we can.
Oh yeah. Okay.
There we go.
So back to the quick start guide. We don't recommend colloidal copper. It doesn't contain enough. It's only 4 milligrams in an entire bottle, which is $30. We did the math on that once, and it would be like, if we tried to get all of our copper from the colloidal copper form, we'd have to spend something like $4,000 or $5,000 a month on copper. We're like, we're rich because we've got copper sulfate. We don't recommend copper cups. They're simply nice. These copper cups, the one that I'm using, it only adds around 0.4 or like half a milligram of copper a day. We don't also recommend copper 1 products. They cost too much. They contain very little copper. Besides, the body easily converts copper 2 into copper 1, and there are far more safety studies on copper 2.
Right. Yeah. So vitamin C helps your body convert copper 2 into copper 1. Niacin
converts it. That's right.
Lots of things convert it.
Right. So this article from OpenAI explained that there were about 13 things in the body that will reduce copper 2 to copper 1. Mm-hmm. The other issue is that copper goes into the mitochondria and it helps us make ATP. And in that process, copper is repeatedly converted from copper 2 back to copper 1, back to copper 2, back to copper 1, back to copper 2. So faster
Super
than that. So
super fast.
So the idea that one is toxic and the other is not, that's just marketing hype, and it's lies, and that it couldn't possibly be true. So don't get deceived by that. Just buy the cheaper copper 2 and let it be converted naturally in the body. We don't recommend copper in multivitamin or mineral tablets because the ratios are off. They contain toxic vitamins and minerals that shorten lifespan, and you can't scale up. Like iron is actually associated with a shortened lifespan. Iron is very toxic.
Right. Well, you got a question.
Okay. Awesome. Why would molybdenum make me super cold? Copper or sulfur depletion? How much molybdenum are you taking, first of all, number one? And number two, molybdenum in the research says that it actually prevents the feeling of being super cold. So, not exactly sure. This could be, once again, things are often paradoxical in the beginning. So if molybdenum is stirring up a toxin, and that toxin is making you cold, this is like the initial reaction that you're getting, but long term, if you stick with it, molybdenum will increase your blood circulation and detox the things that are making you cold. Mm-hmm. I don't think molybdenum as a supplement can deplete copper or sulfur. It does help the body use copper and sulfur better. That's what the research shows, but it's not depleting it. The depletion levels are if you're not taking any copper at all and you're taking 1,000 milligrams or 4,000 milligrams of molybdenum, then it can deplete.
There we go. He's taking 1 to 2 milligrams.
So that's a normal amount. Shouldn't cause the problem. Again,
and how long have you been taking it?
In order for molybdenum to deplete copper, you have to take no copper. You need to take 1,000 milligrams of molybdenum. You're not close to those amounts. These are the amounts that are taken in drug form when they give people things like tetramolybdate to people with Wilson's disease to remove their copper, which I think is a horrible, horrible mistake because copper is so good. And I think people with Wilson's are suffering from low copper, not high copper. Mm-hmm. But the point is, that low amount of molybdenum is not going to deplete your copper, especially if you're taking 30 milligrams of copper. So it should be fine. Again, I suspect what you're having is a temporary detox reaction or a toxin stir-up. Not sure which toxin. It's very hard to find information on molybdenum. I mean, it's hard enough to write the book on copper. I had to chase everything down that I possibly could.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so it's been happening in a couple weeks. More information. So usually these detox reactions happen from the first month or two. Mm-hmm. Give it more time and see if it changes. There's 2 other things that can make you super cold, and that is lack of B vitamins. Make sure you're taking all the B vitamins. We need B vitamins, copper, and magnesium for energy, and of course also food and oxygen. So
fasting can make you really cold.
Right. So don't go fasting, but try to eat 5 times a day, smaller meals. Mm-hmm. Try to get some cardio in. Try to get some other exercise in to boost your metabolism, and that should fix feeling super cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I used to be a faster, and I did the intermittent fasting. I did the snake diet fasting. I would fast for days on end. And Jason convinced me to eat the small meals throughout the day, and
it's hard to also transition from eating 1 large meal a day to 5 small meals because the tendency is to want to eat medium-sized meals, and 5 medium-sized meals is
too much.
Is not what you need. Yeah. What you need is 5 small meals of 300 to 500 calories, and even 5 times 5, that's 2,500 calories. That's a lot. So you really got to get the calories down per meal. So 5 small meals a day is really more like 5 tiny snacks.
5 snacks.
So that you're getting, calories into the body that on a regular basis, so that you're not running on low blood sugar.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Sunshine. Let's get back to the article. So you can't scale up when if you take multi-minerals. We don't recommend Trace Minerals brand liquid copper because it also has 250 milligrams of unknown minerals. This is not an unknown mineral program, guys. We have each mineral is on the program in an amount because it's
for a reason.
For a reason and because it's specific. It's not easier nor more gentle to take less copper to start. That's almost always worse. Almost everybody who starts at 5 milligrams of copper or less gets bad results, but 5 milligrams of copper or more gets better results. That's why we say start at 5, because we have read thousands and thousands of people's experiences now in our group over the last 2 years. We're very tuned in with what everybody is saying. Mm-hmm. Again, take enough to detox. If you take too little, what happens is people report brain fog. They report they don't get any of the energy benefits from copper. It's just not enough. Again, the average person has 2,500 milligrams of fluoride in the body. we need to detox that fluoride, and 3 milligrams of copper is not going to cut the mustard. We got to take enough to work.
Right.
The big genius of our protocol is that the trouble with 3 and 4 milligrams is that that's enough to cause 50% of the people to have nausea. So we have to get past and through nausea. So we need milk to do that, separating the dose. We have about 12 different reasons, and we'll get to about how to eliminate nausea, which is why the protocol works, because we're teaching people how to take 5 milligrams of copper without vomiting. That's the real key. Again, our protocol is based on our book, Copper Revolution, Healing with Minerals. Thank you very much for everybody buying books. That's very helpful.
Thank you to everyone who's bought a book.
That book is about 500 pages. Please leave a review on Amazon. That helps us and it helps other people to understand what the book is all about. Our protocols also have been evolving directly from you guys, our Facebook group.
From feedback and
Now, the first third of our book is free and it's online, and I do video readings of the first 36 chapters. There's a link there for that. It's important you know what copper does in the body. That's why I made that first third of the book free. The chapter 1 lists 200 or more positive effects of how copper heals the body.
We got some questions.
Yeah. Love the book. Recommend it to all my friends. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then what's the best time of day to take copper? Will it keep you awake at night?
In the beginning, sometimes copper can keep you awake as your body goes through a detox reaction. It doesn't have that effect on us anymore. Sometimes we take copper like in milk at night, and we almost always have more vivid dreams when that happens.
Right.
It's kind of fun. I think it's important sometimes to take copper at night because it's such a brain healer.
Right.
And where does the body, when does the body heal? It heals at night. So if you're taking copper at night to help heal the brain, I think we get extra brain benefits out of that. Right. So in the beginning, while you're detoxing, that might not be the best idea, but after 2 to 3 months in, start taking some copper at night too to get those increased brain healing benefits. As time goes on, you'll be stronger and better able to handle it. In chapter 1, I listed 200 benefits of copper. One of those benefits is it helps to detox fluoride, because fluoride lowers copper, and so obviously the reverse happens. They clearly bind to each other. Now, detoxing fluoride, while it's listed as one benefit, is actually a list of about 180 or maybe another 200 benefits, because fluoride harms the body in about 200 different ways, as I have listed and sourced in my iodine article, why we're taking iodine. So I'd already had that sourced, and then when I discovered that copper and boron also detox fluoride, that's great.
Right.
And copper detoxes actually hundreds of chemical and plastic toxins simply by helping the body make superoxide dismutase, which is also a very strong anti-cancer agent. And I want to dig deeper into that one more when I have more time. Superoxide dismutase, I want to just, pour through as much research as I can on that subject, because look, if superoxide dismutase detoxes hundreds of chemical and petrochemical and pharmaceutical toxins, each one of those toxins might, when they're getting out of the body, might help the body heal in another
100
different ways each one. And very often there's overlap there too, but
it's a big
even though there's overlap,
really big.
We're talking about improved bodily functioning in just about every area that you can. Copper's great for every single cell in the human body, every organ, every tissue. It all comes together. Chapter 1 answers a lot of common questions, and it's important you know what's going to happen when you take copper. Copper is very powerful, and it will make very many positive changes to your health. So, one of the important things we already mentioned is that copper increases red blood cell counts. It also increases white blood cell counts. It's important to know that if you're taking copper and doing the things, that you understand what you're doing, because if you go back and visit your doctor may tell you, oh my gosh, you have a horrible infection. Well, why did the doctor say that? The doctor will say that because they've noticed that your white blood cell counts are above normal, and they look at higher than normal white blood cell counts as a sign or proof that there's an infection. Even when there's no infection, they'll tell you have an infection, and they'll put you on an antibiotic. You don't need to go on an antibiotic because copper is an antibiotic. Copper kills germs, and you're becoming healthier by having higher than normal white blood cell counts. It does not always mean that you have an infection, so you have to tell your doctor, well, I'm on high copper and I have higher than normal white blood cell counts, so that's not a proof that I have an infection. You have to know what copper is doing so you don't accidentally get put on a fluoride-based or fungal-based antibiotic for no reason. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
there's why we have this in our protocol is precautions.
Right.
Read chapter 1 at least. Precautions. Most people report worse results when taking copper under 5 milligrams. Right. We went over that. Other mistakes include consuming too much salt, too much fat, too much sugar, not taking any co-nutrients, or failing to understand or trust the process, because it takes a couple months. I cover these. I cover this in the next 12 points. I'll cover everything again, discuss how to actually implement these 12 points. This is 12 big points here. Again, less than 5 milligrams is not enough to detox. We went over that. People get the brain fog on too little. They might never get through detox. Like, not even after 50 years. 1 to 2 milligrams is shown in the scientific research over and over again. It's not enough to fix copper deficiency. So you cannot start at 1 to 2 milligrams and somehow avoid detox reactions. You'll actually get worse detox reactions. Again, we have to get past 2,600 milligrams of fluoride in the body on average for the average person in the United States. We're also detoxing excess iron. We're detoxing vitamin A. We're detoxing our former historic use of medications. We're detoxing 150 milligrams of bromine in the average person's body. We're detoxing mercury and lead and aluminum and arsenic and cadmium. Otherwise, all those toxins all at once will just start swirling around. They clog the brain. People get worse. Don't do it. We're telling you to avoid that on purpose.
Right.
Again, we always have new people joining every time. That's why we're going over this.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. Absolutely loved it. Easier way to get the answers straight from the master. Yes. Make a list of questions and eagerly await the next live. Yes. Thank you, Vicus. Let's see more on what he has to say here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback, Vicus.
And Kaiba, thank you so much for getting the book and for recommending it to all of your friends. That really helps. Thank you.
The other thing is that you have to adapt to 10 milligrams of copper a day over the course of a month, because 10 milligrams over a month, 30 days, what's 10 times 30? It's 300. By the time you get 300 milligrams of copper into the body, that is enough to sort of reach body saturation. And after that point, the body begins excreting almost all the copper you take in, which is good and is proof that copper doesn't build up and it's not going to create problems in the brain. Mm-hmm. So if you do the research, read our guide, you don't get scared by the arguments made by the people claiming copper is toxic. It doesn't build up because it all comes out. Now, when I first read that, I was like, oh my gosh, if copper is all being excreted, then how are we going to get any use of it?
Right. Why even take
Why
it?
even
if it's
take
all
it? It sounds like it's
excreted?
impossible, right? But the reality is, it's good when it's excreted because it carries the toxins out.
Yeah.
And
like
when
hold
you're
them
taking,
by the hand and just takes them right
that's right.
out of
And
the
when
body.
you're taking enough to get the toxins out, your body has enough to also activate all the enzymes that do all of the good things in the body, not just excreting toxins, but also building collagen better and making more energy and all the rest. All the other benefits are there when you have an abundance of copper.
Yeah, you've got a question here.
Yes.
Mark.
Last year, when I was 3 months since the protocol, I added MSM and borax around the same time. I ended up with rashes in my armpits and my neck and my grind the back of my legs.
Maybe behind the back of his legs.
I quit both of them and want to add them in, but I'm afraid because it took 2 months to heal from the rash. Oh, that's wild. Oh my, and my hands peeled. Any suggestions of starting either of these things? I started slow with both of them.
Okay.
Great question. What do you think, baby?
Well, so are you still taking copper? Are you still on the copper, zinc, and vitamin C? Because if you've been doing that for a while, then you probably will be able to add those others back in.
Right. So we recommend starting MSM about 2 months in. He did it 3 months in. It should have been okay. So very clearly they detoxed you. I mean, that's obvious, right? But, I mean, the rash was super uncomfortable. So what have we said? Toxins come out in the skin primarily when they're not coming out through the feces or the urine.
Right.
So water kind of fixes both problems because you're going to urinate more. And when you're hydrated, you're going to be less likely to be constipated. There are quite a few things that will fix constipation: increased vitamin C, increased magnesium. So if you eliminate the constipation problem,
so
then toxins are coming out. Then
like
they're not going to come out
apples?
through the skin. Yeah, more fruit, more fiber. Sometimes when you do more fiber, it's counterproductive. Like if you're not taking any minerals at all, it took me, this happened to me, 3 years into green smoothies without taking any minerals, and I developed horrible constipation because greens are very dehydrating. It took 3 years for the dehydration to hit me. I wanted to see how long it would take. That's a long time, 3 years in. So,
well, and Melanie also says niacin deficiency. Yes.
Yes, could be niacin deficiency.
Niacin,
so
that can also cause rashes.
Again, we have a protocol of 20 minerals. So for you, Mark, I guess it was you have it was boron and MSM, all right, borax and MSM. Do every other thing on the protocol that you can tolerate because they're all detoxing you, and then come back to the two that were bad. And if it was bad in combination, start just one and slowly scale up. And then once you get used to that one, then move on to the next one. And again, with more water and doing those other things.
Eating apples,
Right.
The whole
more
saying,
fiber.
an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
We've started eating more apples.
Apples are so good. They have the great pectin fiber, and yeah, it's really, really good for you.
Yeah. And it could be a niacin deficiency rash, which Melanie just wrote, which is why I said it could be that you weren't taking enough B vitamins, because B vitamins will also boost the energy, and as your energy levels are higher, the body has more energy to detox. Detox is hard.
Right.
So if your body has the energy to make the processes work, it goes a lot easier.
Right. Then it'll come out other ways other than the skin.
Right. So again, a month on copper at 30 milligrams helps all of the copper enzymes come online. What's funny is that they've tried to look for these other biomarkers to determine copper status, but the amounts of things like superoxide dismutase, the amounts of things like the metallothioneins and the ceruloplasmin often don't change whether people are in chronic copper deficiency or have reached copper sufficiency.
Yeah.
However,
this
is
an
important point.
Okay.
However, they all start reacting and working better. So it's like the body will make these enzymes, but they're not functioning. And look, the body, and if they're not functioning, the body can't detox copper in copper deficiency because it can't afford to waste it because you're low. So the body has to adapt, and while it still will make the enzymes stop working. So the enzymes start working with enough copper.
Right.
And then they can excrete the copper because metallothioneins does help the body excrete copper. Okay, now what was your point?
Okay, so Layla says yes, just not the appeal coated on apples. Yes.
Yeah, we're eating organic apples.
Yeah, we're buying organic apples that are not covered with anything. You know how a lot of times the apples are shiny and they have that wax stuff on them? The ones we're finding are specifically have nothing on them. They look kind of dull and weird, but they're apples, just natural apples.
I don't know if I can type. I'm going to have to type this one.
So let's just...
So the Bs we take are B1, B2, B3, B5, B7, B12. Just those 6, and we're avoiding B6, and we're avoiding B9.
Yeah. Thanks for the question, Kaylin.
Yeah. Okay. And let's see. So now, one of the problems... So here's the problem of taking too little copper. It doesn't work. Now the problem of taking too much copper, like if you run up to 20 milligrams of copper a day, like right off the start, sometimes people can have kidney problems on copper. It's probably 1 person in 200 can have kidney problems, but that's not a problem with copper. It's a problem with boron, and it's a problem with iodine, indicating that it's not a problem of boron or iodine. It's a problem of too many toxins rushing into the kidney at once. And the main one we think is probably fluoride. It's been identified by other people as a problem of starting boron or a problem of starting iodine. And the solution is, I like to work out solutions. If you have kidney problem or lower back problems, you just do a baking soda flush. So you take 2 large glasses of water, you put up to a full teaspoon of baking soda in the first glass. Try to drink as much of the glass as you can. If you only drink half of it, that's fine. Totally gross, right?
It's really gross.
Then follow with the second glass of water. That's so important because you want to flush the water through the kidneys. And it always works whenever you have kidney issues.
Right.
And why do you have kidney issues? Because you took Prozac for 7 years, which is a fluoride-based medicine.
Annoying.
So she gets that. I fortunately don't. But you had a couple of that just this week again.
Yeah, just recently.
But what have we been doing differently? We've been starting running. Running flushes toxins out.
Yes.
And so when you increase the exercise, it's like you go through a whole nother round of detox because you're taking your health up to another level.
Right, because all the lymphatic system moves.
That's right. So even though we're in this for 5 years, when we do something different, like vastly increase our exercise, we have to go through detox again. So, like again, fluoride has a 22-year half-life. So we only detox little bits of it at a time here and there. What did we say about fluoride? It makes acne, right? Now, so this last year, I would do something crazy like try to do squats with about 100, 120, 130 pounds on my back. And I would do 50 reps at a time, which is just, that's a lot, okay, even for me. And what would happen is I'd get a zit on one of my hips, like on my left hip or on my right hip, where I had done all of this work. What squats work the hips. I'm like, oh my God, look at that, a zit on the hip. It's probably from fluoride detox. And our bodies are getting better at detoxing fluoride because we're on all of the minerals. So maybe I had a little bit of constipation back then too, and I wasn't taking enough fruit at the same time, so that's why that hit me with one zit in a weird spot because of the exercise.
Right.
That's why we know it's working that way.
Right. So Bella says, recently read that the organic produce in the UK can be legally sprayed with oxalic acid because it's a natural compound.
Yeah, and fluoride is also considered natural because it's an
they
element.
also spray the organic grapes and cherries and other produce with a fluoride-based antifungal. It's really gnarly. And Layla says soak it in baking soda and white vinegar.
Yeah, to get the toxins off.
So,
that can help.
That's really good. Well, and two, I'm just thankful that all of the minerals that we take, and copper especially, helps our body to make the superoxide dismutase that helps to get all of this other stuff out of our body. I mean, ideally we wouldn't be consuming it to begin with, but I mean, how do you do that? I mean, is everyone going to start planting their own apple trees and, all the rest? So anyway, we just do the best we can, but yeah, just be aware of all the things that they spray on our food.
So I write in the protocol, healthier people can tolerate more copper without nausea more quickly. None of the 800 people in the Olivares study had problems taking up to 20 milligrams of copper, and they did it without co-nutrients. But it was only for 6 weeks, and I think this is also in South America, where there's probably not as much fluoride in the water. I'm just guessing on that. But we've had people who've done fasting and biohackers, and some people, they don't have reactions to copper, and they go, oh, is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. That's great. It's generally speaking, the more sick you are, the worse detox reactions you're going to have because you have to detox the toxins that are making you sick. So the good news about these detox reactions is that it's generally a milder form of sickness than the person normally gets. And what we think of as sick is not really sick. It's really just the body trying to eliminate toxins in its own way. There's a theory out there that viruses are simply exomes, or the body's attempt to take its own proteins and wrap them around toxins to make them packaged safely for removal. And what is metallothionein but an enzyme that just wraps around the toxin to remove them out? So if the body naturally makes more of the enzymes that will wrap around the toxins and carry them out, that's a normal process.
Yeah, so Kaylin says, this has been a wonderful live. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Kaylin. Thanks for being here with us.
So now we're in the guide, the 12 solutions to prevent nausea. Again, copper causes nausea in half the people who take it at 3 to 4 milligrams. The goal is to prevent the nausea, not hammer against the nausea as much as you can until it goes away. What you want to do is avoid it completely so that you're not having difficulty. So this is why we say to take 2 milligrams of copper 3 times a day. That's where you get to 6 milligrams of copper in a day, but you don't take enough to create the nausea all at once. Over time, as you begin to detox, you will have less and less nausea. One of the persons lately said it could very well be that the vagus nerve gets stimulated so much from the copper because copper is a nerve healer. And the vagus nerve could be responsible for inducing the vomitous feeling. But as the vagus nerve gets used to copper stimulation, it no longer says, oh, I have to vomit. So your body will adapt. Your nerves get stronger. Everything is like, oh, this is not an emergency. That's fine.
Interesting.
But the other thing we've noticed is that this is probably in the guide. I'll get back to the guide. Vitamin A and fluoride cause the nausea. And then we just this morning.
Just this morning. We just
discovered.
God. So whenever we take B12 right before we have our coffee in the morning, it makes us super nauseous.
Right.
So there's something about the B12 with the coffee and with all the minerals.
And all the other minerals we put on our coffee.
All the minerals we put in the coffee.
Might not be working very well.
Yeah, so we're going to just re-strategize and take our B12 a little bit later.
Well, the
in
B12 is chewable and it's
right.
sweet,
it's
and
like
I want to make sure
easy.
we don't miss it.
Right.
And so I've been doing that in the morning. I think it's probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to be compatible.
Doesn't go
so we're going to separate that out and take it at a different time, and hopefully that won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Another solution. Put copper in milk. Now a lot of people, I can't take milk. I don't want to do milk. I don't do milk. Just us. Try it in milk. You're not going to die. Babies can tolerate milk. I don't care if milk has made you sick in the past. It's probably just because you were copper deficient. And if you put copper in milk, it'll probably go down just fine. Milk probably is bad for people because they're copper deficient. But if you're fixing your copper deficiency, then milk won't be a problem. Copper cuts mucus. So does iodine. So put copper and iodine into milk and enjoy it, and you won't have any clogged nose at all.
Right.
Maybe not at first. Maybe at first you'll have to go through the clogged nose, but we don't suffer any mucus problems. I breathe clear out of both nostrils all the time. That didn't used to be the way I lived my life. Most of my life I could only breathe through one nostril at a time. On copper and zinc and iodine and this whole protocol, I have clear nasal passages almost all the time. It's fantastic. Again, my own personal testimony in my book goes on for 10 pages.
Lots of things.
When people say that they can't tolerate milk, look, the whole point of this protocol is to heal you so much that none of the former problems that plagued you in life, health-wise, should ever plague you again.
Right.
You don't understand how good this protocol is.
Right.
When I say take copper in milk, I mean take copper in milk.
But also, if you don't like the taste of it, or if you don't like the taste of copper and iodine in milk, because sometimes I don't like that. So I have started putting it in the little 00 capsules. And I'll just put it in a capsule, and then I'll drink the milk separate. So, and then it's all in there together.
Right.
And
milk is very calming
nausea.
For the stomach. It's easy to digest.
Yeah, it's very good.
Surprisingly enough.
And that's what I do whenever I'm on the road.
Copper is a digestive aid. It improves digestion in 20 ways. I've been adding to my article, which I originally was back, 17, 16 ways not too long ago. Now it's up to 20 different ways.
Good.
The things that formerly caused you digestive difficulties will no longer cause you digestive difficulties once you get the copper up. So if you couldn't tolerate milk before, you probably can. Think about this too also. God calls Israel the land of milk and honey. He wasn't talking about milk baths. He was talking about people drinking milk. Milk is a historically old, decent food, so it's probably just fine. You can also put it in juice. Citrus juice works. Citrus helps us absorb copper. Oh, milk, again. What did they say? There's this thing called McGMAF or whatever. It's anti-cancer. It's found in milk. Colostrum's in milk. Ceruloplasmin is in milk. Everyone's like, oh, how do I increase ceruloplasmin? Drink the milk.
Yes. All right. So Kaylin also adds that she keeps papaya enzyme tabs to chew on. That helps with nausea too. So that's a good tip. Okay. Yeah. Iris says, off the top of your head, can you quickly mention... Did
you read this one, the puking this week?
Yeah. Kaylin says that she's been puking this week, so that's why she asked the B question.
Oh, the vitamin Bs.
And she said, aha. So it could be that, just take them at a different time.
Right.
Take
them milk is the number one thing that reduces nausea. That's why we're saying it, because it solves the problem. Okay. Or let's say milk doesn't work. Try cheese. Try yogurt. Try kefir. Doesn't matter. Try some dairy. That's the point.
Yeah. Kefir.
Kefir. Yeah. Okay, kefir.
I say kefir, you say kefir.
Well, kefir came from the heifer.
Let's sort the whole thing out. Okay, so Iris says, off the top of your head, can you quickly mention the 20 minerals that we should be taking?
Yes, let's see what we can do.
Tuning in late, I may have missed it earlier.
It's listed at the very top of our article that I'm reading in our protocol guide. There's a link there to everything we're taking, so you can go back up and see that. But I will list them off the top of our head. We do iodine. Copper and zinc and vitamin C. Those are the first three. We take 6 B vitamins. Okay, so that's B1, B2, B3, B5, B7, B12. Okay, then we also take potassium. Then we take potassium iodide. We also take iodine. We also take selenium to go with that. We take borax, which is boron. We take MSM sulfur. We take molybdenum. We take colloidal gold. There's 3 more. Did I miss? I believe I said selenium along with the iodines. Okay. There's 3 more. Colloidal gold and did I miss anything? I'm missing 3.
Zinc. Yeah, you already said zinc.
I said zinc. I said vitamin C. All the B vitamins. We don't really take vitamin E very much. Sometimes chromium, but we haven't really... Oh, chromium. We're taking chromium daily with our B vitamins. That's right. Chromium.
And magnesium.
Magnesium is the other one, right? We listed boron already. 19 out of 20 is pretty good. Okay.
There's one more in there somewhere.
There's one more in there
B12.
somewhere.
Did you already say B12?
Yeah, because I listed all 6 B
okay.
vitamins.
All right, we'll get back to it. All right.
Kefir the heifer. That's right.
Okay.
Let's get back to how to reduce nausea. Oh, I think molybdenum. That was the last one.
No, we said molybdenum.
No, I don't think I did.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. We'll have to review the tape, which we're not going to do. Take molybdenum. Molybdenum deficiency causes nausea. So it also could be that copper causes low molybdenum. If we're taking high copper with no molybdenum, it could be a problem. A lot of people have gotten... Oh, also bismuth. Pepto-Bismol is an anti-nausea, and it's another mineral. It's bismuth. That is also an anti-nausea. Hasn't made our protocol yet. Maybe I'll have to add it in there. Lower your vitamin A and fluoride. Each of these, it tends to cause more nausea. We've had quite a few people say, oh, I quit using fluoride toothpaste and my nausea went away. So, yeah. Do your diligence and read the protocol and make sure you're doing everything you need to do.
Oh, that could be another thing. Like if you're still eating chicken and then you're getting nausea,
right.
It could be from the fluoride in the chicken.
Or if you haven't cut out tomatoes,
right.
Or if you excessive tomatoes. Well, what did we do? We did a little bit of ketchup this last week.
Yeah,
We had a
and
little
then
bit
we
of
had
extra
a little bit of
nausea.
nausea this morning,
We violate our own guides. It bites us in the butt too. We're not Superman.
But we're human, and you
Right.
know, part of living is
experimentation.
pleasure.
Experimentation is important too.
Yeah, experimentation and pleasure. I enjoy, you know.
I did
tomato
manage to
sauce
eat an
from
entire
time.
burger without any ketchup
I'm proud of you.
the last couple times I went, and the world didn't cave in. It was okay. I might have had to have an extra sips of soda or two, but that's all right. My real go-to is ginger, the chewy candies. We got into the chewy ginger candies.
I like the gingins.
Those are good.
Yes.
Yeah, for
Those
nausea.
are good.
Right. Maybe I'll have to add ginger chewy candies to the protocol
Yeah,
because that is
I
good.
do like the gingins.
Another thing is take fewer minerals and fewer supplements at one time. That helps to reduce the nausea. So that's part of the reason why we separate out zinc. If you take zinc at night, because if you take zinc with a lot of other minerals, other people have said that zinc is like one of the worst offenders for causing nausea. So you don't have to separate zinc from copper, but we just do it because of the nausea issue. And also zinc is a more relaxing supplement, so if we take zinc at night, it seems to be better taken at that time. Not a hard and fast rule. You don't have to take zinc at night. If you have allergies bothering you in the day, take a half a zinc tab. That's fine too. And you can mix them together. That's fine as long as you've built up a tolerance to the supplements and are no longer causing nausea. You can mix them together. But if mixing together causes nausea, then don't do that. Figure out what works for you. Seems to me that salt causes nausea because dehydration causes nausea. So sodium chloride dehydrates cells, and the reason why it does that is, what do we know? If you're stranded out in the ocean, you cannot drink the salt water. Why? Because it will cause dehydration. So again, salt works the same way on land. It's still going to cause dehydration. Salt is the dehydrating mineral because water flows to where the minerals are. And in the cell, there's this sodium-potassium pump, which is always pumping potassium in and sodium out. So if you want your cells hydrated, potassium hydrates the cells because it pulls the water into the cells. Sodium pulls the water out of the cells because water has to go to where the highest gradient of minerals are. So if you have excess sodium, what are the problems of excess sodium? We know. Edema, swelling in the tissues, makes you look fat. So salt is dehydrating, and when you're dehydrated, you're going to have nausea. So again, do the full protocol. Nausea goes down. Avoid salt. And take potassium chloride instead. It helps to kick salt out of the body. A lot of people are having, not a lot, some people when they start potassium, they get symptoms of high salt. It's because in the beginning, you're trying to move and detox the salt out. So everything you detox, when you're detoxing it, you have symptoms of the high toxin. So excessive salt symptoms happen when you start potassium, when your body starts to kick out if the salt is embedded in the cells and the body doesn't want it, but it can't kick it out because there's not enough potassium, as soon as you add potassium and all that salt gets kicked out of the cells all at once, you have symptoms of salt poisoning by taking potassium. It's, again, counterintuitive, but these are short-term problems on the way to long-term health.
And that's another one of the reasons why we started slow and low.
Right.
Like we would just start with like 300 milligrams of potassium.
Yeah. We did that for years, and it turns out that wasn't enough.
No, but while we were trying to increase our potassium, just like one extra banana a day, or one quarter of a teaspoon.
Right. Now I'm up to taking half teaspoons of potassium up to 3 times a day, which is about another 3,000 milligrams of potassium. Well, and that's great.
So I used to have racing heart episodes, and I did not know what was causing it. I was trying, like trial and error, trying to figure it out.
And the literature says that potassium can cause it, which was very, very counterintuitive. And I was like, well, if potassium can cause it, we have to stay away from the potassium. That can be dangerous. But it turns out that potassium only causes it because it causes a high sodium detox reaction. So it's really not from the potassium, it's from the sodium. And where have you heard this before? We're saying this again and again with these other things.
With the other
when you take sulfur and people have agitation or whatever, it's from the mercury. You know, so right.
Yeah, so since we have done more potassium and specifically lowered our salt intake and salt exposure, I have not had one racing heart episode.
I'm so thankful.
Almost a year.
No, 8 months.
8 months, almost a year.
7 months, almost a year, right? That's huge.
Time.
That's huge. And you realize how difficult that was for us, because I did not want to push potassium, having read that potassium can cause racing hearts. And we've had that in the forum. People say, I take potassium and then I have the racing heart. That's a detox reaction. It's temporary. Get through it. It takes about 7 days to 2 weeks maybe to get past those first few difficult days. And there are other things you can do to get past the difficulty. You need to drink more water to kick the salt out. You need to sweat more to kick the salt out. You need to take a green smoothie to kick the salt out. And then you get past the high salt symptoms from starting the potassium. That's the way it works.
Right. So we have some comments here.
Yes.
Iris says, perfect. Thank you. Kaylin says, awesome.
Vika says, I saw in one of the images of the protocol that going too fast can cause massive histamine release. Do the minerals in the protocol cause histamine release faster than the body can process it? So the body will release histamine on purpose for a reason to help bind and trap toxins. And the histamine, combined with the toxin that it's trapping, will cause toxic reactions like swelling in the skin or excessive sneezing. And so when you detox too quickly, it has that counterproductive result. So if that happens, you just simply back off the doses you're taking and get through it more slowly. But the reason why we start with copper is because copper contains 7 different antihistamines along with zinc. So copper plus zinc makes a lot of the antihistamines that prevent that reaction from happening when you're detoxing the toxic substances that cause the histamine. So it's not the minerals in the protocol that are causing a histamine release. It's the toxins that get stirred up that are causing the histamine release. And histamine has a purpose. It's helping trap the toxins.
That's right.
So the antihistamines also trap the toxins and help to lower the histamine, because the histamine doesn't have to be there. They can be trapped appropriately in other enzymes like metallothioneins. That appears to be the way it works.
Okay, we need to go up because there was one we missed.
Well, there's this one too.
Okay.
Racing heart from potassium can be low sodium, adrenal fatigue, and low aldosterone or low magnesium. I know that that's what people say because that's a natural conclusion to make, that if potassium lowers sodium, then the problem is low sodium. However, I don't think that's the case, because the studies show that there are people who never take any sodium and they're healthy and they don't have these problems. It's really a problem more of the sodium in the wrong place, and then once it's detoxed, then you don't have a racing heart. If potassium alone and low sodium would cause racing heart, how come you don't have racing heart all the time now? Well into it.
Right.
So that should be the case. If that was the right conclusion, then that would be the case. That's not the case, so that's not the right conclusion.
Right. Yeah, scroll back up a little bit.
Okay. And vitamin C helps if you're having strong of a detox reaction. And so does selenium. You know, you add, the more different minerals you guys add in, the better overall balance is, and the less that this will happen. John Morris says, I've been thinking about trying Celtic salt. John, we don't recommend any of the Celtic or sea salts or Himalayan salt. People say that those things are good. I just don't think so.
Right. And we use those for years, so we
sodium,
have taken them before.
Yeah, we've been down that path. We think it's a dead end. And the reason is that, you know, look, if yes, people will say that, oh, it's the refined sodium salt that's bad. Well, If the substance is bad, and all the research shows it's bad, then taking a Celtic sea salt, which is 85% or 90% sodium chloride, is not going to be made better with the addition of just a few other things. It might mollify the negative effects, but it's not proof that we need it. There are peoples, like indigenous peoples, who never have access to any sodium salt at all, and they're too perfectly healthy without all of the Western diseases that we're all plagued with. Salt is a major cause of disease. Studies show this over and over again. You don't want to add in a toxin with its antidote and say, therefore, it's not a toxin. It remains a toxin. So, you can take all of those other minerals that are in the Celtic salt without the salt. It just goes by a different name, and it's called magnesium oil.
Right.
Magnesium oil is what's left over once they remove the salt from all the other minerals in the ocean.
Right. Well, and even a popular video that's going around right now by this lady that has a healing center in, I believe it's Australia or New Zealand or somewhere. She talks about Celtic salt. And the main thing is because it helps to get magnesium into your body. So take the magnesium. Use magnesium oil.
Yeah.
You don't need the sodium for
You don't need the sodium.
magnesium.
The other thing is people are like, oh, well, we need sodium. Well, we already have sodium on our protocol. What do you think borax is? Borax is sodium tetraborate. In fact, that could be why we're slightly more sensitive to the sodium, because we've been taking sodium in the form of the borax all the time. So, you don't want to overdo sodium from too many sources. The other thing is that, look, we're Americans. We live in America. We eat American food. And what is American food loaded with? Sodium. So we don't need to add extra sodium in a protocol. The whole point of a protocol is to take the supplements for the things that you're deficient in, not the things you're overloaded in.
Right. And we eat at home, but not every single meal. I don't know anyone who eats at home every single meal.
Yeah.
So,
there are super strict foodies who might do that, but
for the most part, we're just,
But baby, even if we eat at home, we still have high sodium. You can't buy bread that doesn't have any sodium. There's sodium in bread. There's sodium in lunch meats.
Well, we could get a bread machine.
Yes, we could, but we're not that hardcore. We want to live like normal people. The whole point of the supplemental protocol is to fill in the gaps, in nutritional gaps. So we don't take vitamin K, for example, as long as we're drinking green smoothies. If we skip our green smoothies, it's like, oh, we better take a vitamin K. Vitamin K is no substitute for greens. It's a poor substitute.
We get greens instead.
I'd rather do greens, and since look, a cup of green smoothie will have like 1,000 micrograms of vitamin K, and that's all you need to take. So it should be no trouble getting enough vitamin K. So if there's no trouble getting it, we shouldn't need to supplement it. And again, greens are far more powerful and effective than just a vitamin K pill. Especially vitamin K is needed to stop bleeding. I have a bleeding disorder. Greens work way better than vitamin K. Doctors say the same thing. That's why I'm not too big on vitamin K as a supplement, because we don't need it, because our diet is, I think, relatively high in vitamin K. It has to be, because I have a bleeding disorder.
We do the greens.
Let's see. Vicus writes again, maybe because you have copper sufficiency and your body is holding on to sodium. We looked into that. I looked into if copper is holding on to sodium. I wrote that in a few of my articles. I have to apologize because I couldn't find any source that shows that copper helps us hold on to sodium via aldosterone. And you have B12 and magnesium. I've been experimenting with this. B12 magnesium massively increased potassium tolerance. Yeah, thank you for your input.
Yes, they all work
I
together.
couldn't find a single source that copper helps us retain sodium when I then went and looked. I took several days to find it, and I had to realize that's just a common viewpoint, and it's like one of those myths. And if I couldn't substantiate it, I had to take it out of my work. So, yeah. If you can find a source, like I said, I'd be very interested in finding that. I'll make a correction the other way again. Jonathan Harris writes, Luke, salt is good, but if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is of no use either for the soil or for the manure pile. It is thrown away. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Salt is a funny word, Jonathan, because sodium salt is only one form of salt. When I say take potassium chloride is a salt. Potassium iodide is a salt. Copper sulfate is a salt. So the word salt refers to a chemical combination of two anions that combine together to form a more neutral thing that is easily dissolved in water. Again, copper sulfate is not sodium chloride. It's entirely two different things. Potassium iodide is entirely different than sodium chloride again too, but they're all salts. Some people say it's amazing how many salts have found their way onto our protocol. Interesting, I knew it was high in minerals, but not magnesium. I used to get racing heart often, I believe. Dr. Tail's Epsom salt soap and herb called Mother Worth, and consuming a large amount of cayenne pepper at times. Interesting.
Very interesting.
So we think it could be from mineral imbalance if you're doing one mineral to excess, which is why we have 20 different minerals on the protocol, and we have experimented again and again getting the balance right. We even tried zero magnesium for a while.
We did.
For a whole year, we were able to last, right? That's actually pretty good for health nuts to try to experiment taking no magnesium. Didn't work. I started getting a little achy feet.
Yeah.
You started getting some achy muscles. We added our magnesium back in. A lot of our little problems went away again, boosted our health. We're now taking approximately 400 milligrams of magnesium every single time we take our B vitamins, which is about every other day or so. Sometimes we might go 5 days without our B vitamins, but then we're like, well, let's be more diligent, and then we go 3 days in a row of taking our B vitamins, so we kind of go back and forth. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, guys. It's just as long as you're taking all the things, and you're not getting too depleted. Jonathan Harris writes, what about the 200 centurions that take over 29,000 milligrams of sodium a day, and they're all over 100 years old? I don't know anything about that, Jonathan. Show us the source.
We'll have to look into that.
That's right. Jonathan, as I have aged into my 50s and I have Lyme, mold combo, I noticed I need salt to taste. And when head pain, a dose of salts help until salty tasting. I just have found, guys, that potassium is the hydrating salt. And often, headaches are from dehydration.
It is.
Salt is the dehydrating mineral. If you avoid it and you start using potassium, it's just a lot better. And you don't have to use sea salt as a source of magnesium. Just because it has magnesium in it and makes it slightly more tolerable of a salt doesn't mean it's good. Like, again, people often say, well, B9 won't cause a problem as long as you take enough B12. Well, yeah, that's because B9 causes B12 deficiency. But that does not mean that B9 is a nutrient. It just means that it depletes B12.
Right.
But you don't have to take B9 with B12. Just take the B12 and leave out the toxin, and it'll be a lot better. Similarly, if magnesium is good, great, take the magnesium, but leave out the bad salt. Leave out the sodium salt. There's a lot of studies that show the indigenous peoples that have no access to any sodium salt at all are just perfectly healthy. Salt alone could be probably the #1 toxin on the whole protocol. We don't really know yet. These things are often in dispute and sometimes difficult to determine. And why are they difficult to determine? Because people are addicted to their salt. They don't want to be told not to take the salt. They're used to it. They love it. That addiction to salt is actually one of the signs you're too high in it. Right. That's how toxins work.
Right.
I mean,
have
you ever heard of addiction to alcohol? When you're addicted to something, that is a bad sign. So,
right.
Thank you for mentioning the different salts, especially the Celtic salt. I watched the Australian lady too. It was confusing me about Celtic. Thanks. Yeah.
Scroll up for me, Simone.
Okay. Let's see. I've run out of my potassium. That could be why you're craving the salts lately. It very well could be. Well, potassium drops. Is she taking? Let's not confuse potassium iodide drops with potassium chloride. Entirely different stuff.
Right.
Okay. Sodium makes me feel terrible. I didn't notice till I started taking lots of potassium. Bingo, Dana. That's exactly right. So I really got clued into this when I went on a walk. And I'm healthy. I work out, right? And this protocol is very healthy for us. But I had fallen into the trap of, since we moved in, of just eating salty crackers for lunch. Because, everyone says salt is good for you. So I just ate salty crackers, with cheese or whatever. And after about a year of that, what happened was we were walking on the trail, and after about a half hour, I got winded, and I had to sit down. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. But I'd eaten the salty crackers with no water right before the walk. And what happens on a walk? You start sweating. So I had extra salt in me, started sweating, led to increased dehydration from the salt. And sure enough, excess salt causes breathing difficulties, and that is exactly what hit me. It was like an allergic reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the last now 7 or 8 months that we've cut back our salt intake, and I haven't eaten salty crackers, and we've increased our potassium, the being out of breath on the trail hasn't hit me once. Not once.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a real thing.
That's awesome.
Great question. My friend may have Wilson's disease. Wilson's disease copper still help with that? I think so. We have indications in the book that copper will help Wilson's disease. Briefly, Wilson's disease people have low copper in the blood. They have low ceruloplasmin, both markers of low copper. The high copper in the liver is only 5 times as much copper, okay, as normal. But babies have 10 times as much copper. Babies do not have liver problems, so it's not from the copper. Okay, copper can rise in tissues that are poisoned. For example, kidney. If they give mice mercury, copper can rise in the mercury 7 times higher. Doesn't that sound like Wilson's disease? 5 times as much copper in the liver? So it could be the poisoning. Now, when a person is poisoned, poisons tend to deplete the copper. But copper rises in tissues when there's a poisoning. So Wilson's disease could very well be a poisoning that's affected the liver and a poisoning that's affecting the nerves. Because poisons do that. Poisons harm the nerves and liver.
I'll be right.
Copper's not a toxin, so it can't harm the nerves and liver. In fact, copper heals the nerves in 20 different ways, maybe even 30 different ways. And so we have a chapter on how copper heals the nerves. We have a chapter on how copper heals the liver. Copper heals the liver in several different ways because a lot of liver issues are from cirrhosis or fatty liver disease. Copper heals fatty liver disease, and copper is also antiviral. So again, if copper heals liver problems, it doesn't cause them. And Olivares showed that 20 milligrams of copper does not cause liver problems. So again, if high copper doesn't cause liver problems, then how in the world can copper be the cause of Wilson's disease problems? We have had quite a few people with Wilson's disease, I believe it's been 2 or 3 now, say that, hey, your protocol is helping my Wilson's disease significantly. The other indication that Wilson's disease people are low copper is their, I don't mean to be insulting, but as we know, copper heals the brain, and people in copper deficiency have trouble thinking. And I went into Wilson's forum to tell them about copper, and oh my gosh, the lack of ability to think and reason and correlate information was horrific. It was very sad. I put it in the book. People felt they were being mocked. I'm not mocking. Look, everybody keeps telling me copper eliminates the brain fog. I feel better mentally. The reverse is true. Copper deficiency leads to brain problems, and Wilson's disease people have significant brain and nerve deficits. So yes, obviously they need copper. I sincerely believe that Wilson's disease, being described as a high copper toxicity disease, is nothing more than disinformation to scare the general public away from copper. Wilson's disease was first postulated as a high copper problem and a disease of copper toxicity in the year 1945, which is the exact same year they started slandering iodine, and the exact same year they started adding fluoride to the water supply. Copper and iodine both detoxify fluoride, so by slandering our 2 antidotes to fluoride poisoning, they're getting away with making us dumber with fluoride. Fluoride lowers IQ, iodine boosts IQ, and copper boosts IQ. Again, they're dumbing us down on purpose. And so I believe Wilson's disease is part of a political psyop against the American people. Is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of talking.
Yes.
Gotta drink my water.
Scroll up a little bit.
Yes. So this was answering Wilson's disease. In my book, my Wilson's chapter needs to be taken in context of the first 20 chapters about how copper heals the nerves, in context of the chapter on how copper is needed for other nerve degenerative conditions. It needs to be taken in context of the chapter on how copper heals the liver. With that background, you can see also that copper would indeed help with Wilson's. There is also a study in there that shows that the gene that is supposedly broken in Wilson's disease actually begins to turn on with enough copper. So it's all in my book. It's a bigger topic than I can go over right now.
Okay, so John says that his grandpa put salt on fruit. There's definitely a lot of different types of salt, especially cell salts that he's been looking into more.
Right. We used to do that.
We used to do that too. We would put salt
all these rabbit holes.
Watermelon and cantaloupe.
So because
they're high in potassium.
One of the problems of watermelon is that excess potassium could be hard on the kidneys and it could imbalance the salts. So the reason why people have these ideas is because the scientific medical community looks at what normal and average is. They don't look at what optimal health is. They look at what averages are. And they say, well, let's just get people to average. Well, that's dumb. Because if the average person is copper deficient and salt toxic, which they admit, then why in the world would I want to be average? We want to be above average in intelligence. We want to be above average with muscularity. We want to be above average in fitness. We want to have optimal health, not average health. Mm-hmm. So, oh my God, it's so dumb. So dumb, the concept of trying to be average health. Do you want your daughter to get C students because C's are average? Right. No, that's insane thinking.
Right.
Optimal.
So we no longer put A's. Salt on our fruit and stuff. But right. Yeah. Okay, so hi. Okay, hi.
Yeah,
it's good to see you. Thank you.
How you doing? Kaylin says the symptom responses in your said groups is so wild once you notice it. I agree. Yeah, that's true. Your hair looks great. That flip worked super.
Thanks.
Well, flip your hair again.
No, so
clearly they're not thinking about my flip.
So once we get past about an hour and a half, I just have to go to the bathroom. Right. So I had to go to the restroom. But so last night I tried this new thing called robe curls. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it or not, but it's like this little headband that you put on. It's supposed to make your hair more curly. So my hair's naturally curly, so I used that for the first time. I kind of like it. So anyway, thanks, Kaylin.
Oh yeah, told her buy the book.
Yeah,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, but so let's get back to the nausea. We're still on nausea. If you apply copper topically to bypass the stomach, don't avoid oral copper, do only topical because the copper benefits the stomach and digestion in many ways. This is an important point that I put in here. Copper is healing the gut in 20 ways, don't get scared of the nausea. Nausea is not an indication that you're harming your stomach. It's an indication that you're healing.
Mm-hmm. Hang on, I want to say one more thing. Kaylin says it's beautiful. So my hair has never been this long in my whole entire life, and it's never been this strong, this healthy, and this full. Right. And so I really credit the minerals for that, because once you heal your body on a cellular level, then it also heals the hair follicles.
Silica helps.
All the things.
So copper is needed for the hair in two ways, not just the color, but also the keratin for the shaft itself, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's really amazing. But I also really like red light. So I have this, it's actually right here on the couch beside me. I have this red light helmet that's called iRestore. Let's see, there it is, the front of it.
It's very expensive.
It is. It was a gift from my parents, but it shines red light on the hair and also the head. So there's been studies that prove that red light is actually very beneficial for your brain too. So
I should be using it for my brain, but I neglect.
So you should do it more often. So it's good for your hair. It's good for your brain. I like it. So copper and red light, they just work really well together.
They really do.
But thank you. Thanks for the compliment.
Again, nausea is from dehydration, so point number 11, drink more water. Mm-hmm. You know, if you drink a cup of water before you try to take the copper, you'll reduce the incidence of nausea. Mm-hmm. Also, if you feel like you're about to vomit, and this feeling will be like a rumbling in your stomach, or a salivation in your salivary glands.
You're feeling vomitous.
Feeling vomitous, right. You sometimes have about 30 to 60 second warning to try to drink as much water as you can really quickly.
It works.
Then that can head off the vomiting. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it does work. If not, get yourself to the toilet or get outside so that you can vomit safely. Vomiting isn't really the worst thing that happens in life. I used to vomit back in my drinking days. It didn't seem to bother me back then too badly. Oops. So, again, the point is to avoid nausea. If you get nausea, you should have drank more water before taking copper. It could be an osmosis problem. So, there's a problem of like bodybuilders who sometimes take diuretics and they have died from lack of minerals. and cramping. Their whole muscles, their whole body will cramp up and they die. So this happened to Momo Benaziza back about 20 years ago now, 25 years ago now. It happens to bodybuilders on occasion. They get dehydrated in their shows.
Mm-hmm.
If you take too many minerals at once, when the body is dehydrated, there's no way that the body can absorb them. So he couldn't just go to the hospital and get minerals because it's an osmosis problem.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get minerals from a high concentration outside the cell into the cell? Maybe they should have started with potassium. I mean, I know a little bit more now, but diuretics can, when the body is loaded with diuretics, which are kicking potassium out, how do you fix the problem?
Mm-hmm.
That's why people die.
Mm-hmm. So Kaylin is saying that she's having the same full hair thing, and her hair went from pure white to many dark hairs growing in. She said she needs to add in the red light. The hair change for her also was when she started copper. So that's awesome. Thanks for the feedback.
Iris writes another question. I think we have to go back up, but Iris writes, I have fatty liver and gallstones. How long did it take Jennifer to heal your fatty liver?
So
we don't exactly know.
We don't exactly know, but it was about 2 years from when I started taking the copper to when I had more blood work and tests run, because I was wanting to get a medical mask exemption for my job. And so I was like, okay, well, I've had anemia before. Let's go see what the test results show. So they just tested everything. And that's when I found out I no longer had anemia, which I felt really good. So I didn't figure that I had anemia. And also I no longer had fatty liver disease. So all the things but we don't know exactly how long it took, but that was at the 2-year mark.
It was 2 years or less is what it took. On high copper, which was approximately 9 to 15 milligrams back then, you weren't really on the full 30. So even a moderate amount of copper fixed it, which is actually, I find very interesting, because it didn't take 30 milligrams and topical to fix it. It actually fixed at the smaller doses. And when we increased to the higher,
we discovered copper sulfate.
When we increased to the higher doses plus topical, that's when we fixed neuropathies.
Neuropathies and the excessive monthly bleeding.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We got to get it 30.
Yeah,
Andrea had a question. Did you read Andrea's question?
I didn't see it.
Do we need to use extra potassium products on our food if we put the potassium drops in our copper formula?
Okay, so you might be talking about potassium iodide.
Right. Potassium chloride is different than potassium iodide. Sometimes we've mixed potassium iodide into the copper. Now, potassium iodide is not a high source of potassium. Right. Potassium iodide is really only source of iodine. And it's because the molecular weight of the iodine, it's almost all iodine.
Right.
And since it's almost all iodine, you're getting like 17 milligrams of potassium with that, or something like that. My memory is serving. But when we're taking potassium as a supplement, we really need to get up to like 3,000 milligrams. So 17 milligrams in the potassium iodide form is almost inapplicable. It's almost nothing.
Right.
So it's really only potassium chloride and taking half a teaspoon of these crystals 3 times a day that gets you up to the 3,000 milligram level.
Right. I also bought potassium citrate from bulk supplements. And what I've done is I've done a 50-50 mix of potassium citrate and potassium chloride.
Right.
And then I put them into the little 00 capsules.
Yeah.
And each of the capsules is about 500 milligrams of potassium. And so I just take them just randomly throughout the day, and, usually just 1 or 2. Because I'm not really getting up to that really high level. It's just more.
Yeah.
Just more.
Kaylin is saying I'm having the same full hair thing, and we already read that one. Change. Fatty liver, how long did it take? Yes, potassium iodide. Oh, so we guessed correctly what she was saying. That's great. Yeah.
But the potassium iodide with the copper, it's really good. So, we showed before in one of our videos how we mixed it into the bottle, and I didn't use up that whole entire bottle very quickly, and it changed.
Yeah, like degraded or something.
It
turned brownish and then turned greenish.
Green color.
Right.
And so I think if you make your capsule and you do it, right before you take it, that's probably a better way to do it.
Yeah.
We still just add it into our coffee.
When we add it into coffee, we don't think it's making a chemical reaction because it's too
so
diluted, so it's not doing its thing.
They're not right there.
Baby, we've almost gone 2 hours.
I know. Yes, I was feeling it.
But I'm beginning to feel it too. What time is it? It's 12:44.
Yeah. You want to finish?
Let's see if we can get. I've only at like 0.1 of the things that. No, wait a second. We're at like. No, I think I'm with you 0.12. So now I'm going over the 12 points again, how to implement those. That's where we're at now. So I think we can go through this a little bit faster. Okay, so diuretics are bad. Copper fixes dehydration. It fixes adrenal fatigue.
Okay, so Andrea has a question. Yeah. Do you guys make your own potassium chloride liquid too?
I don't make it a liquid.
We use it just as a powder.
I put the powder directly into the drinks as I'm consuming them. Right. Because, again, you're using so much. You're taking like up to a half a teaspoon at a time. Pre-mixing it doesn't seem to really make sense.
And we like to put it in lemonade. Right. And it's really good because
I do half water, half lemonade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like to use a straw because I like that better.
Mm-hmm. So once again, we can't take just some copper and throw it at the wall, right, to try to fix things. The whole point is we have to take more copper than incoming toxins. So a lot of people are taking in, I try to calculate this, maybe roughly 3 milligrams of fluoride a day. Like we can get up to 2.5 milligrams of fluoride just from tap water. Not to say you're all drinking tap water. We're not. But the point is, like one Coca-Cola can have 5 to 6 milligrams of fluoride just in a can of Coke. Mm-hmm. And we drink sodas on occasion. Dr. Pepper has only 1 milligram of fluoride, so we're bad. But on the other hand, we're taking 30 milligrams of copper, which is more than enough to detox the 1 milligram. But if your average, let's say, computer programmer is drinking 12 Cokes with 5 milligrams of fluoride in each one, they're doing themselves some significant mental harm over time because your average person also doesn't supplement copper at all. The point is we have to take enough copper to overcome the incoming toxins. So, a lot of people, our food is supplemented with iron and vitamin A. We have to take enough copper to balance out those things. That's why we need to slowly work up to 30 milligrams of copper to get past all these problems. Big warning, this probably should come earlier in the document. Hydrogenated toxic fats like margarine cause faster neurodegeneration with 3 milligrams of copper. Again, this is an indictment on low doses of copper and I have to theorize why this would happen. Again, this shows that this doesn't happen with copper alone. It only happens with these neurodegenerative fats. Right. So it does not a blaming on copper. The problem is with the fats. But what do we know about copper? Copper helps the body restore the myelin sheaths. But if your diet is full of these bad fats, these neurodegenerative fats, then copper helps the body make the myelin sheath, then the body's going to incorporate neurodegenerative fats right onto the nerve. Huge mistake. So you cannot continue to eat margarine on the copper protocol. Again, this is in our group description. It's so important.
And most people, they're not buying margarine at the grocery store, I don't think. But
it's a popular food still. A lot of restaurants still use margarine.
But whenever you eat out, a lot of restaurants use margarine in their cooking process, and also they'll put, margarine for their rolls or for their pancakes. I mean, I know that a lot of people in our group are very health conscious and probably don't even eat those items out, but just for the general population, it's, you go out to dinner and they provide butter with the rolls, and 9 times out of 10 it's actually margarine.
Right, and you can talk to your waiter, well, is this margarine or is it butter? They'll say butter, even though it's margarine, because they have no idea what the difference is, and they think margarine is butter.
Right.
Because they just think these words are synonymous, and they're not. It's really sad. The other thing is margarine and hydrogenated fats are often snuck in the ingredients in baked goods sold in boxes like cookies or crackers, often are made with hydrogenated oils. Right. Pro tip, Whole Foods, they won't sell anything with a hydrogenated fat in it. So Whole Foods is expensive, but maybe it's worth it, especially if you care about your brain. Now, they might not block all negative foods, but they block a lot. They block about 300 different food ingredients from their stores. Right. They've been doing that for 15 years. She says, thank you. She says, now since copper pulls out fluoride, would cream of tartar be okay to use for potassium? We think cream of tartar might be a source of fluoride because it's what they use. Where do they get it? They scrape off the residue in barrels used for winemaking. And in grapes, they're using fluoride as an antifungal. So cream of tartar might have an unknown amount of fluoride in it. I've really looked to see how much it should have. Mm-hmm. It should have some. We just don't know how much. I don't think cream of tartar is a good source. Our new salt is 1% cream of tartar. And when it's that small of a portion, it's probably not that bad. And again, we're taking 30 milligrams of copper to be able to detox the fluoride, so it doesn't really matter when it's in those small amounts.
But we don't really, do we know really how much potassium is in cream of tartar? Has anyone ever said?
I know. It's really
how
weird.
much it is? So I don't know. I just like to use the
Some people like
potassium
the flavor
forms. Yeah.
But yeah, we're just using potassium chloride.
And citrate.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Toxins block and deplete copper. So almost every toxin, whether it's prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs or illegal drugs or legal drugs or alcohol, they're all toxins. They all block copper because copper is used up in the detoxification process. And your body does not have leftover copper if you're copper deficient, which is why people end up with chemical sensitivities when they're low on copper. Like when I was a kid, I couldn't walk down the detergent aisle in the grocery store without getting nosebleed.
Right.
I was that chemically sensitive.
Yeah.
And those chemical sensitivities will go away with enough copper and zinc.
So Vicus says cream of tartar also has sulfites.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
And Iris says thoughts on carbonated mineral waters like San Pellegrino. Pellegrino. So
Not sure about San Pellegrino. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what's in it. Is it a high silica water?
I think it's like a purified water that's carbonated.
Oh, right.
That has carbonation added.
Mm-hmm.
So several years ago, I read this book called The Oxygen Advantage. And he talked about how important it is to maintain your oxygen and carbon dioxide balance in your body. And for people that have professions where they talk a lot, like teachers, radio people, like we're talking a lot right now in this video, he said it's very, very beneficial to consume carbonated drinks and carbonated water because, it says it's a mineral water.
Yeah.
But so that it will help to maintain that carbon dioxide to oxygen balance. So personally, I think that the carbonation is very good. It's really good for you.
Some of the mineral waters we recommend are Fiji water because they contain silica. Mm-hmm. Other volcanic waters also are high in silica. And silica, when it's in the form of those mineral waters, seems to detox aluminum more effectively than just taking diatomaceous earth silica. Mm-hmm. So I recommend those mineral waters just for the silica content.
Ooh.
I don't know if San Pellegrino has silica in it. Susan just writes it has graphene oxide in it. There's a video if you can find it.
Yeah, so check that out.
I would skip that particular brand then. That doesn't sound good.
Yeah, we don't really drink that water, so we've never really looked into it a lot. But yeah, and it's a Nestle product. Okay.
Andrea asks, how many drops of copper do you put in your pet's water? I put about 3 drops in the big dog dish. Mm-hmm. Dogs don't need vitamin C. They make their own. So you don't need to add vitamin C for them. But they might need zinc. I never give the dog zinc. But dogs eat a high meat diet. So zinc is high in meat. And I'm not putting the dog on the high copper program, just a little. So you really don't have to give them any co-nutrients with the copper.
Mm-hmm. You about ready to wrap up our video?
I'm trying.
You're going to keep going?
I'm trying. I gotta keep going.
Get a little bit more to go.
I'm so glad that I got through to the margarine section because that's an important point. But all toxins deplete copper. Again, read chapter 1, what happens, let's say toxic drugs. Don't mix toxic drugs with copper. That's not a good idea. Drugs kill people. I cannot say that copper is going to be safe with any drugs because the drugs are killing people. So, I can't endorse drugs in any way, shape, or form. Copper's safe, drugs are not. Quit the drugs, start the copper. That's how you should do it.
Right.
I know there's a lot of exceptions to the general rule. Like, for example, some people are on drugs to prevent the body rejecting kidney transplants. If you can't quit those drugs, don't quit those drugs. I mean, obviously, you have to go on a case-by-case basis, but generally speaking, the more you can minimize drugs, the better everything will go.
Right. So Iris asks, is the carbonation bad? I personally believe that the carbonation is good.
Good, right.
Carbonation is the good part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the Oxygen Advantage talks more to that.
Mm-hmm. Vitamin A blocks copper. I want to thank Grant Genero for his 2 free ebooks on the subject. They're at his blog at genero.blog. Highly recommended. Unfortunately, Grant's not interested in researching about copper right now. And the vitamin A toxicity groups, the people who run those, they think copper is toxic, which is the normal viewpoint out in the world. You can't really fault them for that. That's to just to take the default view on something when you haven't done a deep dive, that's normal. I mean, that's what makes our group unique, because we've gotten past the fears of copper toxicity. Unfortunately, they haven't, but that's normal. Again, copper and vitamin A have an inverse relationship in the liver. Here is the link for that. Here's my own article showing that vitamin A is not necessary to make ceruloplasmin. They gave rats a vitamin A deficient diet, and they made more ceruloplasmin. So again, Morley says we need it, but I showed him this, and his response is, well, that's in a rat study. So he just dismissed it out of hand. Mm-hmm. I talked to him about Grant Jenner, and he just goes, well, he's an idiot. I don't know if you can dismiss 2 entire books on the subject so easily, but I talked to him. That's what he said. Toxicity of excess vitamin A has been known for decades and is not in dispute. I have known from a kid. They have always told us that fat-soluble vitamin A and vitamin D are the only 2 vitamins that could be toxic. Well, we've discovered that B6 and B9 are also toxic, but there are at least 100 documented harms of vitamin A toxicity. And here's the point. They say don't take more than the minimum amount, which is 10,000 IUs. Well, 10,000 IUs is also stated as 3,000 micrograms or 3 milligrams. Excuse me, most of us get more fluoride than that. And if vitamin A is toxic above 3 milligrams, they're literally admitting that vitamin A is more toxic than fluoride if you pay attention to the relative amounts of toxicity.
Right.
And amounts matter.
Yeah.
So
they changed the measuring to IU
to hide that
milligrams.
from us.
Yeah, so it seems like it's a lot.
10,000
IU.
10,000 IUs, that's a ton.
Yeah.
No. You cannot take a ton of vitamin A. It's toxic at very low levels. Iron is also a poison that blocks copper, and in fact, so copper supplementation reverses dietary iron overload-induced pathologies in mice, so copper fixes the problem. It took the human equivalent of 25 milligrams of copper over 3 weeks to reverse the problems of excess iron. Jennifer, baby, you needed 30 milligrams of copper, so close to that 25, over almost the same time period. In a month, on 30 milligrams of copper, you fixed the heavy bleeding. Your heavy bleeding went from
it was amazing
20 days a month regularly down to 10 days or less the very first month we did it, and then quickly dropped down to 7. And you thought 7 was normal, and you were so thankful. And then once we added topical copper, it dropped it all the way back down to 3 or sometimes even only 2 days.
Yeah.
Which you said was like a period from like when you were like a little girl or something like that.
Like my teenage years.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So your full story is also linked in our protocol guide because it's so important on the iron subject. High iron intake is also associated with early death in a very big study. And again, this is the main reason to avoid multivitamins. They're loaded with vitamin A, they're loaded with iron. Multivitamins don't work. That's why we had to develop this protocol, because multivitamins don't work. They have everything in the wrong ratio. They contain way too many toxins. This is the Iowa Women's Health Study. Again, copper fixes problems of both high iron and low iron. It's very, again, kind of counterintuitive, but low iron problems are really often a problem of not metabolizing the iron, and we need copper to metabolize the iron. We also need zinc and sulfur, also metabolize iron. Copper sulfate, actually, if you put copper sulfate directly on iron, the copper will bind directly to the iron, and the sulfur is said to carry away some of the, iron sulfate is water soluble. So when they say, there's no way that you can get iron out of the body, sulfur does it just fine. Iron sulfate makes it water soluble.
Does copper carry iron out of the body?
It could be the sulfur that's doing it. It could be the MSM sulfur on our protocol that's doing it. Also, zinc. If you look at the problems of zinc toxicity, one of the problems of zinc toxicity is that it blocks iron. So it's like, again, the solution to iron problems are all out there. I just don't know why these other guys haven't seen it, or why they're not looking at our research. But yeah, they don't have to. That's fine. Fluoride blocks copper. Again, see chapters 32 through 36 of my book. Most people get at least 2.5 milligrams of fluoride per day in the water alone. Popular soft drinks contain up to 6 milligrams of fluoride per can. We went over this. I'm going to skip through. There are at least 45 things that block copper that I identified on my list. In all of my research, the largest list I ever found that anybody else compiled was 10. So if my list got up to 45, you can see that my research is very complete. I've blown away basically all the rest of the world combined by making lists of things. And in fact, if you want to make a really big list, oh my God, this is very exciting. Planet Fitness. They warn about photosensitivity from various drugs. They had a list of about 100 different drugs that cause photosensitivity. But what do we really think photosensitivity is? It's from low copper.
Low copper.
So they created a list of about 100 drugs that cause photosensitivity, probably through the copper depletion mechanism.
Right.
So I did find somebody in the world who was better than me, and that is Go Planet Fitness. All of those things likely block copper, but I've said that. All pharmaceuticals, all toxins deplete copper, and my theory that that was the case is bolstered by Planet Fitness's list of all these different prescription drugs that cause photosensitivity. I was very happy to see that I was outdone. Go Planet Fitness.
Mm-hmm. All right, you got some questions here.
Okay, does copper help with...
the one before. He just says synthetic B vitamins.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I don't think synthetic B vitamins are a problem, John. I think it's the problem. I think the problem is that B vitamins in general can deplete copper. And I think B6 and B9 themselves are toxic. But once we get our copper levels up, then those B vitamins being synthetic won't cause problems if they're taken in balance. I believe we do need B vitamins for energy. We notice the difference. We've tried to get along without B vitamins. I start feeling what I call crunchy, like achy in my body and like low energy. And then when I take the B vitamins, it's like the sun comes out. I mean, they say B vitamins create energy. They give me energy when I take them. I think they're good. If we don't take them, we also end up with like the niacin rash around the neck. Mm-hmm. I've tried to not take niacin for up to 3 weeks at a time. We get the niacin rash. It's called pellagra. It's this rash around the neck. It starts to get a little wrinkled in, like this little ring sensation. And then we take niacin and it fixes it. So obviously we need them. I can't avoid them. So it's not that they're synthetic. That's not the problem. The problem is if you take too much niacin, it can induce copper deficiency. That's the problem. Copper fixes the problem with the B vitamins, so therefore,
right.
It's not that it's a problem with them being synthetic.
Scroll up.
Okay. Does copper help with glyphosate? So glyphosate binds to copper. It's a copper chelator. So copper does help to detoxify the problems that the glyphosate brings into our lives. I understand that baking powder used in most baked products is a source of aluminum, which is harmful to the brain. You can make aluminum-free baking powder by combining 2 parts cream of tartar with 1 part baking soda. Now I learned that cream of tartar likely contains fluoride. Look, you don't really even need baking powder. Most recipes, well, you can totally substitute baking soda for baking powder. Baking powder is almost...
It helps it rise.
I know, it does help it rise because the aluminum will create bubbles.
Oh.
That's why they add aluminum to pancakes.
Well,
to
they
make them
also
fluffy.
sell the Bob Mills brand, I believe, is aluminum free.
Right.
Baking powder.
There's aluminum free baking powders out there.
Yeah. Take enough copper to combat these.
That's right. Tammy writes, I have high iron in my blood, so copper will help pull it out. I avoid iron supplements.
Yes. Should.
It fixed all the high iron problems in the mice. It fixed all your high iron problems. Iron can cause things like constipation. Copper fixes it. Copper fixes all the problems induced by the iron. So will it pull it out? That's a different question. As long as all of the symptoms are fixed, I think that's what the real issue is.
Right.
Prescription medicines are toxic, yada yada. There are at least 20 supplements. Now, our list of supplements we avoid is now 30. 30 supplements we avoid, often because they block copper or because they don't bring anything to the table, or that copper does all of the things that it does, so therefore why spend an extra $60 to $70 a month on a supplement that doesn't really add anything to the table. If we fail to take copper with our co-nutrients, sometimes there can also be problems. Like, again, I just talked about, I tried not taking B vitamins. That's a problem. I tried not taking vitamin C. 5 days of no vitamin C leads to a headache because collagen is not made effectively, or perhaps that's my theory. Mm-hmm. So take the co-nutrients. Due to a lack of understanding of the safety of copper or the other conflicts of interest, some people have falsely claimed that copper 2 is toxic. We went over that. That's not really the case. There's many things that reduce copper 1 to copper 2 in the body. If we take those co-nutrients, they're there, then it's not a problem. Many other supplements can induce a deficiency of copper. So some people wonder, well, why are we trying to reduce copper with these other supplements like zinc and vitamin C? we're not trying to reduce copper with zinc and vitamin C.
They work together.
They work together because we need them all to make collagen.
Right.
So this is why they cause a depletion of the other, because the body, look, if the body needs 3 kinds of bricks in building a structure, it will simply become deficient in the brick you're not supplying. Mm-hmm. So yeah, zinc induces copper deficiency. Copper can induce zinc deficiency. We've experimented with that. We tried taking low zinc based on Morley's advice. Mm-hmm. It didn't go well. In low zinc, you've got things like insomnia, you've got things like low libido, allergies, and all 3 of those hit when I tried to take the zinc down to 10 milligrams a day on our high copper. Didn't work. And it took me quite a few weeks at 125 milligrams of zinc a day to fix the low zinc problem. And then when it did fix, I could come back down to 50 at a more reasonable dose, and I'm totally fine.
So Andrea asks, does anyone know what causes dark circles under the eyes besides low iron?
We fix the dark circles under our eyes on our copper protocol, probably because copper and everything else that stops bleeding. The dark circles could be just like a sort of a stagnant lymph or something, or bleeding behind the eye sockets. Who knows?
So I have like little bags under my eyes, but I've never really had the dark circles.
Yeah, but your eye puffiness is almost nothing right now.
Right,
you're looking
really
improved. You're looking really good, baby.
Mm-hmm, thank you.
Many supplements induce a deficiency of copper, so we got to get the ratios right. That we've done a ton of experimentation with our protocol to make sure that we're not blocking our copper. How do we know we're not blocking our copper? Because we know everything that copper does, and we're getting all of those good benefits from the copper. Again, most important co-nutrients are zinc and vitamin C. Next most important co-nutrients are probably all the B vitamins, maybe the molybdenum. Avoid B6 and B9. Here's why. So I have huge, my article on folate is 11,000 words. It could be a whole separate ebook. I decided to make it free because it's that important. I might summarize that in my next book. Sometimes people get great energy from copper in the first 3 to 4 weeks. Then they run out of energy, wonder what happened. Often the problem is they run out of B vitamins in their body, or they run out of magnesium. We replace the B vitamins and start supplementing B vitamins and magnesium, then they get their energy back. This is a very common problem. It's easy. It has an easy solution. A lot of people say, well, I can't afford all the B vitamins. If you buy the B vitamins separately, yes, there's an initial cost, but these bottles will often last you 6 months to even a year. If they have 300 pills in a bottle and you're only taking them every other day, it's going to last over a year. So the monthly cost is very low. It's just the initial cost that's a little bit high. In copper deficiency, people often have 10 to 15 major health problems simultaneously, and they often all go away. People have things like multiple infections, Lyme disease, EBV infection. Well, 90% of people have Epstein-Barr virus infection. That's just known as the cold sores. Mold. We've got mold and parasites and mercury toxicity and no energy, and they're tired, they're exhausted, they've got body pains, they've got anemia, they're allergic to foods and supplements, they have digestive and gut problems, rare disorders, common disorders, they're often bedridden, they've got nerve problems, mental and mood disorders. Copper fixes all of that. We've seen all of that heal in our protocol. It's really, really amazing. We've seen such tremendous healing stories. Some people have just they literally say, I thought I was going to die before I found the copper revolution, and they heal. And so these are some of our favorite, biggest cheerleaders in the group, and we love them. We're so happy that people have healed, and we get these testimonials every day. It's fantastic, and I just wish more people will get that, and it's happening, and it's just the copper revolution is I named it right. This is a big revolution. Wow, it's fantastic. It brings me to tears if I think about it.
Yeah.
Many people have mistaken ideas on copper, such as I can't tolerate other vitamins, or not vitamin C, or not B vitamins, or not zinc without getting my allergic reactions. It's not personal. It's not your allergic reactions. It's simply copper deficiency. Again, copper helps make 7 different antihistamines. Copper fixes that. Once you get your copper up, you can tolerate those other things that used to make you allergic just fine. We've seen this over and over again. It's just so fantastic. Again, even adrenaline and epinephrine, they're used in EpiPens, and copper helps to make that. Once people start copper, they can quickly tolerate the intolerable within about a week as the allergic reactions melt away. Some people, it's taken up to 2 months to be able to tolerate sulfur and iodine, because those are particularly very detoxing, and If you're too sick to tolerate those, I think that's why the copper protocol works so well, because copper helps make so many antihistamines, and the sulfur and the iodine, they don't. So starting with those is worse. Oh, another point. I haven't written about this too much yet. We were thinking about, maybe advocating potassium first. But the potassium does not make the allergic reactions go away. And sometimes when people start potassium, they get the racing heart issue because they have the sodium detox they have to get through. So what helps with racing heart issues? Copper does, because copper helps to fix heart issues. It's copper deficiency. There's 80 different biomarkers of copper deficiency related to heart issues in the body. And copper fixes that problem. So we're not advocating potassium first, but again, copper first.
So scroll up, you have a few questions there.
Okay. Dehydration. For dark circles.
Thickest.
Yeah. Rice bran extract limits iron circulation in the blood. Since this blocks transport of iron into microbial cells, this acts as a powerful antibiotic. I don't know about that. I just don't know about it. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't even know dark circles. And dehydration is a possibility for dark circles. Yeah, potassium helps hydration, and so does copper. And what is the next book, and what is coming out? Don't know yet. Don't pressure me.
That's why I said you have to scroll up and read those.
Oh yeah, that's why you want me to read when the next book comes out. I am not making any promises.
I'm asking this all the time.
Yeah. Well, the book's going to have to be fantastic. I just know that much, and it will be. I was talking about a dropper full of...
taking
about a dropper full of copper sulfate in my Citrus E Cardio Miracle beverage daily without hardly any nausea issues for several months. Then I noticed that it began to taste kind of foul and have an upsetting feeling in the stomach. Maybe the copper sulfate went bad. Is that possible?
I don't think so. It depends. Did you make it with distilled water?
If you pre-mix it with something and let it sit...
No, it looks like...
Well, because
he was just
began
putting
to
it in
taste
there.
foul.
Yeah, he was just putting it in his Cardio Miracle beverage daily.
I think copper sulfate can go bad. But if the copper sulfate is mixed with something, then slowly it could have a reaction. That's possible.
Yeah.
Turmeric's one of those things that blocks copper, but yet at the same time, there's more of a synergistic effect. So I wouldn't necessarily avoid turmeric, and turmeric is a good thing. Here's the trouble. If you take a ton of turmeric and no copper, that's when these things often have a copper block effect. Again, you have to remember how little copper the average person gets. The average person gets 0.6 milligrams or less copper every day. If we're taking 30 milligrams of copper, we're in an entirely different world. We're taking maybe 60 times, maybe 100 times more copper than most people get. So all those copper blocking things will almost have no effect. Unless you're doing like 20 different copper blocking things at once. Again, that's just, if you're doing 20 different copper blocking things at once, each copper blocking thing is likely going to block 0.6 milligrams of copper or less. So if you do 20 of those things, but 30 milligrams of copper, you're probably in the clear.
Okay, so Steve says he was making the copper sulfate with this distilled water and mixed when drinking the beverage.
So I don't know why it began to turn or why it changed. It could be, Steve, maybe you need more co-nutrients and not just what you're mixing it with.
You know, sometimes because we put all of our minerals in our coffee, and sometimes we just get really nauseous. And other days there's zero nausea whatsoever. So
maybe his Citrus E Cardio Miracle beverage went bad.
Yeah,
I don't know. We don't know what the situation is over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but typically it should not go bad because it is antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial.
Right. All right, let's see if what else is in my list here. Copper and boron both help the body retain magnesium, so eventually may need less magnesium in the protocol. We think 400 milligrams magnesium is better than 1,000. The trouble with high magnesium is that it also can deplete copper. We're avoiding salts. I got my articles on salts versus potassium here. I'm going to skip through that. We talked about that quite a bit. Action steps. Now I'm going to translate the above information into a practical guide for what to do. I'm going to cut it short here because we are now at 2 hours.
We're at 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours into it.
We haven't done a live video in forever, so we're just making up for lost time.
That's right. So please read the full protocol. There's a lot we covered. There's more in here on action steps on how to translate this into, again, what specifically to do. There's just a little bit more specific how-tos on the rest of this. If you read this on your own, it takes 20 minutes. Since we read it live, it takes us 2 hours because there's a lot of side
conversations,
and
questions,
and so forth.
And yeah, we like that. We like the questions and
the Q&A is good. I think
we
made a mistake. We didn't get to the Q&A when we were last reading it and last doing it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We will put this back up on YouTube, and hopefully maybe you'll be accessing it there. Thanks for tuning in. We love you all.
Share it with your friends. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
See you back in the group.
Yeah, we'll see you in the group.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.